Hey everybody! Hey everyone! How's it going? I actually managed to get it on time today. Woo! Actually on time for once, I think. Maybe I'm a minute late. Hey everybody, how's it going? How did the audio sound and things like that? How does everything sound? Cause I've tried to set up like a professional style stream here. Yes, Girl Pinton says it's a leaf. Yes, it is a leaf. Hey everybody. Yeah, so let me know if like the background music, if my audio levels, they're all too much. This is like a completely new setup that I've got going on right now. I'm not constrained to the single laptop anymore. I have, I'm in between houses. Technically, I'm homeless. So right now I'm staying with my parents. And I was able to then connect the stream up to my computer rather than the laptop which I used to use, which to be honest was awful because the little tiny screen, little magnifying glass. I got two monitors here. All right, cool. Everybody's saying that audio sounds good. That's great. That's awesome. Well, hey everybody. Dan says you're never too much. I think everyone I know in real life would beg to differ. That's great. Cookie Robot says her style wrong. Yeah, sorry, I just threw this together, guys. Hi everyone. How's it going? Wow, what a week it's been. For a lot of people, I'm sure it was filled with Games Workshop announcements, Warhammer Fest materials. Not for me. I've been busy all week, moving and packing things. I was able to get a lot of my miniatures moved earlier on last week, and this week was mostly dedicated to everything else, which it turns out there's a lot of it. There's a lot of everything else. Sometimes I forget about that. And so often I am, obsessed with the miniature side of things. The Spastic says that shirt is too much. It's a jumper and it is not too much. This is so good. Come on, this is so good. This is like Halloween all year round. And anybody who knows me knows that I love horror. Halloween is one of my favorite times. Caruso Wargamer, thank you so much for the donation with the €5 donation there. A little help for the new Discourse Heresy. Thank you very much, Caruso. That is lovely. Thank you so much. That's really appreciated. That is really appreciated. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, well, that is super appreciated help. The Discourse Heresy, though, I mean, what, is it because I have perhaps implied the Games Workshop may, in fact, be getting better? Because that's what I want to talk about today, because I've heard some news, some stuff from the old Warhammer Fest that I want to chat with you guys about today, because I find it very interesting, and I'm not sure 100% whether or not what it means. So I want to get everyone else's opinion on this as well. Jeffrey Lindstrom says, the Halloween is my favorite holiday. Good stuff. That's awesome, dude. Halloween is definitely the best. I just love horror movies. And so therefore, Halloween's like the time of year for horror. Funnily enough, actually, it took me the longest time. I don't have any like horror themed miniatures. Outside of like Batman villains. And I don't think they really count. Except for, I suppose, you've got Don't Look Back. I have that. I've got it sitting around here somewhere. It's one of the few things I don't have in storage right now. Don't Look Back is a horror-themed miniature war game, but you don't get a lot of other ones, do you? I'm trying to think. Anomaly as well, but that's from Blackside Studio too. Blackside Studio do Don't Look Back. They also do Anomaly. I'm trying to think. Any other horror miniature war games? I guess it doesn't really work, right? Because it's kind of like a tough genre to do in a sort of war gaming. Silver Bayonet. There's a Joe McCullough one. There's always a Joe McCullough one. I think I've mentioned Joe McCullough every single stream, at least once. 11 Think says that shirt is understated for her. It is indeed. It's very understated. Danbrook says I'm making a sandwich. Give me a minute. No, you get no time at all. William says Discourse loves pirates. I love horror movies. This is my accent once again playing me false. Well. Horror movies. There, I can roll my R's. Does that help? Grimgar says GW pricing is horrific, if that counts. Yeah, it's a little bit of the pricing I wanted to talk about today, too. I mean, and I guess we can just jump straight into it if everybody wants to. We can just jump right in. So obviously this week has been filled with all sorts of reveals, all sorts of announcements from Games Workshop. They had their Warhammer Fest. And I'll be honest, guys, like at this stage, I can't even remember. Is this like the one time a year? It feels like we're just off the back of, I guess that each convention, Games Workshop have more, you know, hype stuff to announce. And Warhammer Fest is like their BlizzCon, I suppose. And so they had a whole swathe of announcements for all of their different game lines, because obviously Games Workshop have tons of different miniature lines. So we had a day for Warhammer 40k, we had a day for Age of Sigmar, we had a day for all the specialty games, you know, Necromunda, Warcry, etc. And then we even had a day this year for Horus Heresy. I don't know if there was one last year. I didn't really pay attention last year. But there was a full day dedicated only to Horus Heresy this year. And that's kind of interesting. And there was a lot of big announcements for it. A lot of big announcements, because obviously Horus Heresy is being launched as a sort of mainline game. Obviously, they've always had Horus Heresy. It's been a Forge World title and been incredibly expensive as a result. Something I talked about recently on the channel, about how the new Horus Heresy is dead on arrival. And obviously in the context of that video, I was talking about the price of Primarchs and things like that. Things that are specific to the Horus Heresy. Things that new players might be interested in. But this year, Games Workshop have revealed that they are doing a, you know, well, they revealed this. We all knew it was coming. There was a big box set, new starter box, and Quothcraft super chatted $6.29. Thank you so much, Quothcraft. That is so lovely. Don't thank me for this donation. I want to see if you explode. Oh, apologies. I saw the donation before I saw the chat. I'll keep it to myself. Yeah, so they've released this new big box set that is sort of designed for new players, sort of. There's a lot of minis in it. There's a lot of miniatures in this new Horus Heresy set. Let me see, actually. So let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, we're gonna go crazy here. The Spaztech says, what a name, says Scarecrow is a horror-themed villain. Yes, he is. He is a horror-themed villain. Indeed, quite so. Son of Aggression says, Malifaux is a fantastic horror-based miniature war game. Which you could... Malifaux is, I suppose. It's definitely got that sort of smoggy style going on with it, which, you know, to me, steampunk has always had a little element of horror in it, but it's definitely very fantastical. And to me, Malifaux has always struck me as a very... How to put this? A very steampunk first setting, rather than necessarily horror, but it's definitely got horror elements, right? It's got a lot of body horror and stuff in it. Carnival as well, another game that I have recently been preparing some miniatures for, is a little bit horror. It's an alt history game set in Venice. There's a faction called the Doctors who are just dedicated to body horror. There's a lot of Cthulhu horror stuff, actually, now that I think about it. But that's a very specific brand of horror. Solar Grey says, oh my god, I love your hair. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. Brush Warrior says, if Horus Heresy will go with the price of Necromunda, it will be done within a year, in my opinion. So this is what I want to talk about. The price, especially for Horus Heresy, it's kind of interesting. I think Games Workshop have been very devious in how they have revealed the pricing of the game. So let me just do this. Look, I didn't even read. I actually spent some time trying to set this up. Wow, check it out. And I've got two monitors and everything, so I can actually see chat and, you know, also this. So that's kind of incredible. Okay, so this is Warhammer Fest. Hello, Warhammer Fest. Hello, all the hype. And this is what we got going. Okay, so I just want to jump over to Horus Heresy. So yeah, they revealed the new box set, right? And this is a big box. This is a big box. So this is the Age of Darkness box. It's basically meant to onboard people into the Horus Heresy. There's a lot of Space Marines. People are, you know, they love their beakies. They love their beaky Marines. They're just Space Marines, but with bigs. And then we've got some models here, which are some nice models. They definitely harken back to the old school style of Space Marines, which I am a fan of. I do like my Space Marines to have a little bit of personality, which is why I'm not a big fan of Primaris. It's a little bit too Call of Duty for me. But and we've got this. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to probably earn a little bit of ire here. I'm not a fan of this model. I think the little head... The little head poking out, like, hello. He's like a little kangaroo, you know, like popping out of the pouch. I just find it really dumb. I'm sorry. And I know that's probably the joy for a lot of people, that it looks a little bit silly. Yeah, so this is the Dreadnought, the Contemptor, right? And yeah, it's got a new plastic kit. Apparently there was another kit. I don't collect Horus Heresy, but apparently there was another kit and it kind of sucked. They're replacing it. Good. And they've got a big transport here, the Spartan as well. I bet Primaris can't fit. And then we've got Terminators too, and they've got their old school Terminators, the style where, you know, the arm, the shoulders, it doesn't really work. It wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, so this box set, okay, this is the big box set. This leaked like last year. Wait, hold on, let me move a little bit over towards the center there. This leaked like last year, okay, and we kind of knew this was coming for ages, and it's a relatively big box for Games Workshop. Games Workshop don't really do big boxes like this anymore. Not so much. They do sort of like special edition boxes where you get like 13 miniatures and then they sell for like 100 quid. But these days they often try to build a lot of terrain into boxes, and it raises the price really high because Games Workshop really overvalue their plastics. We recently had Ash Wastes come out, and admittedly the terrain in Ash Wastes, while it's not really super to my taste in terms of aesthetic, it's very Ewok Village, one of the weaker of the Star Wars movies, the third one, except in certain places. The Ewok stuff really lets it down, but the actual terrain itself is very modular, and I really like that. It's got little hooks and stuff, and it's designed so that it can be customized. I'm a big fan of that. But Games Workshop really overvalue it. You get like 2 gangs, a couple of vehicles, and some bug things, and some terrain. And it's like $300. Like, it's crazy. Like, I did a video on it, and it's just nuts. So that brings us to this box. So if Ash Waste was $300, how much is this box going to cost? And everybody was speculating that it would cost a lot of money. And I felt like it was going to cost like $450. And there's just so many models. And Games Workshop, what did they do? They revealed that it is not $300. That it will be less than $300. Or for the Brits in the audience, £200. So, what's happened? The press has been incredible. Everyone's like, huzzah! Everyone is loving it, right? Like, everybody is loving the fact that you get all this for less than $300. Which, I mean, sure, that is kind of good, but can we just, first of all, all agree that $300 for a box set is crazy? That is a lot of money. Can we just first of all agree that is the case? That $300 is an unreasonable amount of money to sell a box set like this for. Okay? So if we're agreed on that, I mean, should we really be celebrating that it's not going to be an unreasonable amount of money? It's kind of sad, isn't it? Like, it feels like every single time that we talk about Games Workshop, sometimes I feel like I'm being gaslit almost. That the prices have been set so arbitrarily high that every single time I speak about it, I should be expecting the very worst. And that kind of sucks, you know? So, I mean, if we assess what Games Workshop actually said at Warhammer Fest was, that box, the Horus Heresy box, will not be $300. Now, I don't know about you guys, but like, okay, good. I guess is my opinion. Like, sweet. I'm just surprised that we got to the stage where $450 felt like a reasonable price point for some people. So yeah, like that, I don't know. Like, I'm not super psyched on the box. Like, I get that there's a lot of stuff in it. I do get that. Oh, and Andrew Mento Matos with the You Discourse what you think of the new cultists since you love the grunge look in an army, with a $5 donation. Thank you so much, Andrew. That's very lovely of you. The cultists, I want to talk about them. Andrew, because I do kind of like them. So this box for Horus Heresy, I'll give it this much. So it's all Space Marines, which is usually not a good thing. But It's usually not a good thing, but I'll give it, for Horus Heresy, it's mostly Space Marines. I know that there was Eldar in the books and stuff like that, and some people are expecting to play other armies. But really, I mean, the focus of the stories is on the Civil War, and it's on Space Marines versus Space Marines. Do you remember this? Come on, guys. Like, the Horus Heresy teal is when brother faces brother. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So, this box, I think Alignment Inc. said it in chat, that this is basically like one big box. One huge box of Space Marines that you could just collect for a single army, and I agree with that. And I think that's kind of good. It means you could buy the box and you can just basically be done. And that's nice. You don't get that very often with Games Workshop stuff. You get it kind of with Necromunda, which is something I like about Necromunda. One of the best ways to get onboarded into Necromunda is have somebody else buy all the books, and you just buy a gang. And you're like, I got my box of gangers here, and that's me done. I'm never buying anything else. That's a good way to play Necromunda, in my opinion. Just let somebody else buy everything. But there's always going to have to be someone who bites the bullet, you know? Often the arbitrator. Which is what I was, which is why I'm always ragging on Necromunda all the time. But yeah, so, I mean, look, it is kind of a starter set, but I don't think it's for new players, you know? I don't think it's for people who have never played Warhammer before at all. Now, the thing is, the title of the stream is, Are Games Workshop Getting Better? And it's because Horus Heresy really seems at first blush to be incorporating a lot of criticism, taking on board a lot of criticism that people have applied to Games Workshop products. You know, firstly, they brought back, this is so dumb, they brought back, look at that, what's this? It's hairpins. It's Dark Eldar hairpins. They brought them back, which is good because I lost one, I think, in the move. So maybe I have to buy this box to get me another one of those. Maybe there'll be some up on eBay, which will be good. Yeah, like, and they brought back the templates and things like that. People love the templates. But obviously, in terms of the rule set, I'm not an expert on Horus Heresy, the rules. But in terms of the rule set, it is kind of a throwback to, like, before 8th. You know, there's that design paradigm that they carried on from 2nd through to, like, 8th edition, and then everything changed. So it's kind of back a generation, which is good, which a lot of people really like. Another thing that they're doing that I quite like. So this is the stuff that Discourse is happy about, okay? This is the stuff that Discourse likes. One of the things I quite like is that the books, they're releasing basically compendiums, right? They've got 2 massive chunker books. I think it's one for heretics and one for loyalists, and they're just 2 big books rather than having a codex for every faction. 2 big books, and they're big and they're intimidating books, but you know, that's it. There's 2 of them, which is good in my opinion. I kind of like that. I would much rather have a big book sold at release and have that accessible to everybody, rather than have multiple codices be released throughout the years. I would much rather just have everything up front. That's what I would much prefer. What does everybody else think? What does everyone else think about this? Let's see here. Symbiote says, all hail the whippy sticks. Yes, all hail the whippy sticks. It's good for punishing your opponent as well. Jose says, too expensive for sure with electricity and gas, too high prices, not buying GW is better for our economy. Not for the British economy. I'm pretty sure that if GW goes under, I think Britain goes under with it. Let's see. AC says, Horus Heresy is going to be a measuring stick for how the community engages with the changes brought about from Outcry. Is it going to perform better or worse, or the same as their more egregious previous boxes? So, I mean, the thing is, right, I only think that this Horus Heresy box looks good in comparison to Games Workshop boxes. Like, I think it looks okay. It's hard for me to judge this box objectively, because I thought that the box would be $450. So it's like $150 cheaper than I thought it was going to be. But the only reason why I thought it would be so much was because Games Workshop really have a habit of just constantly pushing the envelope. They really do. And so therefore, I thought they were just going to take the absolute piss and just go as hard as possible. And they haven't done that. So, like, how do you judge that? Well, I think a way to assess it is basically the thing: is $300 a good price point for an entrance into a game? And I don't think I think it's far too much, in my opinion. Because there's other companies that sell things, that sell boxes that have similar. I mean, you get what? Let's see. You get in this box, you get like 40 Space Marines. You can get a squad of Terminators, you get 2 vehicles, and you get 2 captains. Which is, you know, it's a nice set. It is a nice set, but it's not like $300 worth still, I don't think. Not really. I mean, like, you buy like 3 Perry boxes, and you've got that many minis, and you've spent £60. You know? And we have to see what it, I mean, obviously, if they come out tomorrow and they're like, this box is $150, I'll be like, that's incredible. That's really good for Games Workshop. Yeah, wow. Nicely done. But I don't think it is. I think it's going to be $299. Otherwise, why would they say, oh, it'll be under 300? Like, it feels a little bit, you know. I mean, obviously, with Ash Wastes being $300, that's the kind of price point that everybody sort of thought it would be. Brush Warrior says Warlord Games had those entrance offers. Yeah, exactly, they do. Sean Valera with the $7.79 donation. Thank you so much. Says, back in the 80s, I purchased GW minis for using with D&D due to the look and quality. Now I would not look at using Games Workshop due to price and better options. One way they have lost market share and D&D grows. Yeah, definitely. Certainly. I mean, the old fantasy models. Well, I mean, even back in the 80s. So I wasn't around for the 80s, but back in the 80s, as far as I'm aware, Citadel Miniatures, I mean, they sold models for D&D. You know, they had their sort of fantasy villagers line that will be relevant in a future video. But they had all sorts of miniatures that were designed for Dungeons and Dragons, and they were pretty good miniatures, you know, especially for the standards of the time. So I can totally get that. These days though, and the thing about the Games Workshop material as well is that the miniatures that Games Workshop produce these days are very specific miniatures, right? They are very much designed for their setting. Miniatures that are designed for Age of Sigmar, I mean, they look like they're for Age of Sigmar. You don't really get the same sort of style. Warhammer Fantasy often had very generic fantasy stuff in it, which is good in a lot of ways because you can use it for things like Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, I totally agree with you, and thanks a lot for the donation, Sean. Really appreciate that. Yes, so Horus Heresy. So there's been a couple of things that Games Workshop have done, right? So the box isn't as expensive as people thought about it. I don't think that Games Workshop purposefully made us all think that the box might be more expensive and then have decided it's not going to be. I think the pricing was probably locked in a little bit earlier. I don't think this was like some sort of devious plan. I think it's just the way that it is, really. They might have gotten a little bit cold feet. They maybe did whenever, I don't know. I mean, Ash Waste sold out, which didn't surprise me. For one, we don't know how many of those boxes were actually produced. But the Necromunda community, I think, have shown a proclivity to purchase big terrain sets. Now, I'm surprised that it got taken up as much as it did, but, I mean, the Dark Uprising box, you know, sold pretty well, I think, for them a couple of years back, and that was a crazy price as well. Cthulhu, which is an amazing name, says, yeah, just look at any old White Dwarf magazine. You can see all kinds of other lines of minis produced for other games. Those were fun times. Yeah, well, White Dwarf used to cover games other than Games Workshop products back in, like, the 90s. So, there we are. And Panzer Chuck says, your glasses are crooked. They sure are. They always are. They're always going all over the place. So, George Attikin says, the Horus Heresy box is a love set for Space Marines. The Horus Heresy is a love situation for Space Marines. Brother versus brother. So, obviously, Games Workshop are actually getting a lot of good press recently, I think, from Horus Heresy. Is a lot of excitement. I'm not too sure, though, whether or not a lot of it's warranted. So let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of something that people have, generally speaking, been pretty excited about. But I want to sort of discuss it in details. We think about how the miniatures wargame marketplace has been a little bit manipulated, I think. Not necessarily on purpose, but I think there is a little bit of something going on here, okay? So this is the 7th of May. This is part of Warhammer Fest. This is something that people are really excited about. Games Workshop, obviously, they've revealed a bunch of different types of Space Marines because, you know, it's basically the dream of Games Workshop to be able to sell 7, 8, 9, 10 different types of Space Marines. Fine. People like them. People like Space Marines. So, I don't know if you know this or not. Being in the miniature wargaming hobby, you might have heard this. So, this is what they're doing. Right? They're not including special weapons in the sprue anymore. Instead, they are selling 60 weapons in a big box, an upgrade kit. Separate. And this has been accepted. This is celebrated. In fact, I wouldn't just say accepted. People are celebrating this. Because what this means is that you're not going to buy a box of Space Marines and get, like, 1 plasma gun. And you can bring, like, 3, you know? So you've got to buy more Space Marine boxes in order to get more plasma guns. Instead, you buy the box of Space Marines and you buy this special weapons upgrade kit. People like this. And I get why. I understand why. But there's a really big but to this, I think. This solution is to a problem of Games Workshop's own making. They're getting a lot of aplomb. A lot of pats on the old proverbial back for resolving a problem that they created. They don't need to simply put a single plasma weapon gun, as an example, in a sprue. What they could do is to be radical about this. They could do something. They could give you as many special weapons in the sprue as that squad can take. See, these boxes, I feel, are a little bit of an upsell. And I don't think that they're necessary. They shouldn't be necessary. This problem of, oh, well, I don't want, you know, I need special weapons in my squad. I want them to be super customizable. I want to keep options open for players. This is a problem that has already been solved by other miniature war games. If we take, for example, we're not even going to go into, like, historicals or parry or anything like that, because that's kind of unfair on Games Workshop. That's just, you know, the value for money there is just too good. Let's go for another big IP. Let's talk about another miniature war game. Let's talk about Star Wars Legion, okay? Star Wars Legion, you buy a squad. You buy a squad of droids, for example. I recently bought some droids, some separatists for the Cis Confederacy. You buy a box of droids, you get the 6 droids that come in the squad. You get your officer and, like, 5 more little dudes. Little Roger Rogers. Okay? You buy those guys. You get them all. But those squads can also come with a special weapon. They can bring a specific gun. A special gun that shoots better. It's the E-2C or something it's called. They can also bring a rocket launcher. So what does the squad comes with? It comes with 2 more guys. One armed with a rocket launcher and one with the special gun. Because what this means is if you want to bring those weapons, you can just have that guy already assembled and decide to add him in. You can just add him in. And the reason for this? Because the card stock that comes inside the box of all the unit cards, this stuff here, this is more expensive than the miniatures. Plastic is cheap, okay? Plastic is really, really cheap. This 60 weapons, these sprues, I'm not sure if they justify their existence. Think about this from the perspective of someone who isn't sure that they're going to spend all of the money in the world on Horus Heresy. Say they want to buy a single squad. Imagine this, they just want to buy a single squad. But they want that squad to have, like, plasma guns or some good special weapons. Now they have to buy 60 weapons. We've gone from having to buy extra Space Marines to now having to buy way too many special weapons. And yeah, I get that the customization is nice. I like having options too. But to bundle it in this way feels like a complete regression of how other companies are doing this. I don't know. I'm not sold on this being good, honestly. At first blush, it seemed good. But on reflection, I'm not sure if it is. I mean, we don't know the prices of everything, which is important to say. we don't know the prices of everything. So, I mean, you know, these could come out for like 10 quid. Which case, okay, sure. But I mean, am I the only one here who views this as kind of like DLC? Kind of like being sold, again, just extra stuff just to play with some Space Marines? Okay. Let's see. So what was chat thing? Freya says, I love the Getting Gun in the box set, though. I have been waiting so long for something like that to give to me Space Wolves Longfang Squad. Okay, fair enough. I think that will be pretty good for people who maybe just want a ton of customization. I think that's fair enough. In a lot of ways, I feel like this is kind of useful for bits traders, even though I kind of can't help but feel like it's meant to take the feet from under them. Games Workshop have always had a problem with bits traders. They've never liked them. So I feel like maybe this is maybe designed for people to go, okay, I'm just gonna buy the big box of bits, you know? But then again, like, bits traders can just buy this stuff and sell it all separately. Butterfly says, it's true. Oh no, I've lost him. Okay, let's see here. Jose says, I bought King's War Sorter for less than 90 euros, less than 2 years ago, 84 miniatures and a rulebook in the box. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of them. Alignment Dink says, discourse getting worked up. Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about this, and I think that Games Workshop are getting away with something here. I think that everybody's sort of celebrating this. I don't know. I think the implications of this are pretty poor. I think that most of the people who are celebrating this, I suspect, have not seen how other companies have handled this. It's pretty standard, I think, to get all the options for a unit, or for a squad, or for an army inside the box with that army. I think that's pretty standard. So the fact that Games Workshop have been able to take that out of the box, sell it separately, and get pat on the back for it is just a little bit ridiculous to me. I mean, even Asmodee are presenting more value for money here, you know, with the Star Wars Legion. Because I've been putting together droids today, and I'm like, how come AMG, what was originally Fantasy Flight, how come they are presenting like such a better user experience, especially for new people here? John Penn says, yes, in the Horse Heresy, the squad of special weapons are in squads of 10 men. But you get 60, you know? You have to buy a pack of 60 squads. So, I mean, this is a problem that has been solved by other companies already. You know, and also another thing with Horus Heresy is you're getting 20 Space Marines in a single box. Which, is this good? Is this good? Because people are like, yay! And I'm like, well, hold on though. Don't we want it to be kind of like smaller but cheaper rather than more but more expensive, right? I feel like a lot of this has to be held off until we see the prices of this stuff. I'm not ready so much to just pat Games Workshop on the back for this stuff. Andre Oliveira says, with the donation, thank you so much, says, I love Warhammer, but the prices are unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my problem as well. And I don't feel like the prices are going to get any better. It seems like we've hit the roof. It seems like we've hit the roof right now, Andre, with the $300. I don't know if it's Games Workshop have just decided that they can't get away with much more. Or not. They're like, this is it. We hit the limit. There's a cost of living crisis. But, I mean, I guess there we are, right? Yeah, so it's pretty rough. I don't know. What does everybody else think? Am I just giving Games Workshop too hard a time here? Is this great? Max Fitzgerald says, hello, where can I buy the Discourse upgrade sprues, including extra whippy sticks? That's on my Patreon. Patreon.com/Discourse Miniatures. Axana says, Boxu skulls, Baxo guns, what's next? Wow, one day we'll get a box of Imperial Guard. I'd love that. You know, some new Imperial Guard. That'd be nice. One day. I'm only fooling. I don't expect that ever. We'll get an upgrade sprue again. Another upgrade sprue. Oh boy. Let's see. Doobie Man says, do we think Games Workshop put out the rumor of £250 so that when it becomes £200 it seems cheap? I don't think they put out the rumor. I just think it was a logical conclusion to make. Dan Brook says, attention me please. He's a member for 4 months. Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate that. Thank you for being an advocate on the channel. Thanks a lot. I've enjoyed your comments. It's great. Corbett says, Games Workshop for sure will find a way to mill people. Well, yeah. The thing that I'm always really wondering about is who is Horse Heresy for? You know? Well, it's a little bit much. Let's skip this song, I think. the sound of cats being strung across a chalkboard. Okay, so that was Horus Heresy. That was Horus Heresy. And I was asked my opinion earlier about the cultists. Cultists were revealed as well over Warhammer Fest. These were some Chaos guys. These are for Warhammer 40k. And I like them. I like them. I'm not like the biggest fan of body horror, but these guys have got it in spades. But I like the design direction for Chaos. Now, you've got to remember, you got to bear this in mind. I don't play Chaos. One of my friends, he always played a lot of Chaos. So I've faced Chaos a fair amount. I've faced Chaos Space Marines across the board. But I don't play them very often. But that's mostly because I don't like Chaos Space Marines that much. I'm sorry. You know, I've been pretty outside of the discourse of the 2 wound Chaos Space Marine thing. And this isn't to say that I don't like the idea sort of Chaos Space Marines, or that I think they're lame or anything. It's just that I don't really, they're not for me, you know, they're just not my thing. I feel like they should be differentiated more from sort of standard loyalist Space Marines. I feel like Chaos Space Marines should be a very different, I think they should be 1,000 years old at least, and having lived in the warp for all that time period, and they should just be mad, and they should be all crazy. I think they should just go really weird with Chaos Space Marines. Which they have started to do a little bit more. But we've seen some chaos cultists, some Lost in the Damned style characters, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of Chaos mostly being insurgencies, mostly being in a response to the Imperium. So I do like that. I do like that there seems to be a little bit more of a focus. I don't know how much that will actually, you know, filter in to the codex for Chaos Space Marines, because it's still called Chaos Space Marines. Like, I'll never get my dream of like your standard Chaos Space Marine army, Chaos Space Marine, your Chaos army typically consisting of like 7 Chaos Space Marines who are just crazy, and then the rest of it just being like, you know, Lost in the Damned. Stefan says they look like Necromunda gangers. They do, and I actually think that they're going to look really good for that. So you got cultists who are, you know, they have like metal plates. They actually remind me a lot of, I know they're from Blackstone Fortress originally, but they remind me of the Daughters of Cain, actually, the sort of metal faceplates on that. So you've got the cultists, but you've also got the Imperial Guard, the Traitor Guard as well are getting a kill team, and they looked really good as well. They look much better. They look much better than the Phobos Space Marines, who have been revealed as a kill team now as well. I thought that the Traitor Guard just looked so incredibly good. So incredibly good. I mean, this is obviously a taste thing. This is a subjective taste thing. But for me, I just love that look, that vibe of like a biker gang from hell. So I had a lot of fun with that. I think that looks pretty cool. That honestly would tempt me to kill team, if not for the fact that there's like an entire kill team in that box that I have no interest in whatsoever. Yeah. So yeah, I do like the Chaos stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily for me. I can't really handle body horror that much. Like, I mean, it doesn't like upset me or anything, but it's not really like my cup of tea so much. So I do like the vibe of them, but it's just not really quite for me. But I like that they're mortals. I'm a big fan of that. And it fits Chaos. You know, it fits Chaos. But as always, I look forward to seeing the pricing, because Warhammer Fest was pretty devoid of pricing. For a good reason, I think, because that sort of dampens the hype a little bit when you see a squad of cultists and there's like 10 guys, you're like, yeah, this looks really cool, and then, you know, you find out it's like $60. You're like, I'm gonna need 20 boxes of these guys. Nah, yeah, that's kind of the problem, right? Let's see here. Paul James Farr says, yeah, I like to see them stronger than regular Marines, even Primaris. I agree. I think the idea of Primaris being stronger than Chaos Space Marines completely takes the teeth out of Chaos Space Marines. I mean, why am I scared about Chaos Space Marines? Primaris guys can beat them one-on-one. Can beat them in a fist fight. Like, why would I be worried? Let's see here. Sindri says, those Traitor Guard look great. They do. Discounted Design says, if I can afford them, I'll be using the Cultist in Necromunda. Yeah, I think they'd work really well in Necromunda. I had one of my friends, funnily enough, the same guy who plays Chaos Space Marines for Necromunda was playing Chaos as a gang, and he was using the old Traitor Guard. I think it was from Blackstone Fortress, those old cultist models, and they worked really well in the context of Necromunda, I think. Destiny Albert says, you should play Kill Team. It's great. So, I have played Kill Team. I have played Kill Team. Because the reason why I have played Kill Team is because I was really curious. Because it looked like Kill Team was created as a sort of innovative... Games Workshop, innovative. Whoa! You know, that was my impression of it. But there was actually a little bit of innovation in the design with alternating activations, with the sort of order system, the line of sight system, and things like that. So I was really curious about it. And in a lot of ways, the game itself felt like it was sort of made in a response to Infinity by Corvus Belli, which is an incredibly competitive game. And Kill Team is okay, in my opinion. I think it's kind of fun. I didn't play a lot of it. I didn't get sort of like super invested in it. I played as the Imperial Guard, which was fine, and I had a little bit of fun. But honestly, the launch of that game was sort of spoiled for me, with the launch of the compendium and all that mess up. And I don't like the lack of customization either. I'm not like a big fan of that. I feel like if you're gonna do a game that doesn't have a lot of customization, you should have like some, what's the word for it? More in-depth mechanics. There are a lot of skirmish games out there that don't have a lot of customization in them, where you're simply choosing from a roster. You don't get to like give a sword or a gun to a guy or things like that. Like the guy comes as the guy comes, right? Like you take up Gangster number 2, and Gangster number 2 always has a shotgun, so you bring a shotgun with you, right? And that works, but the game has to have a lot going on, you know, to sort of make up for that. Like, the interesting decisions have to be made on the table. And I feel like there was a little bit of that. There was a bit of that with Kill Team, but I don't know if it really quite got to the sort of same level of some other skirmish games I've played. Because there's a lot of competition in skirmish games these days, let me tell you. I've been putting together some lunar miniatures. Oh, that game is it seems like a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to playing some lunar. I've been watching a lot on that. Let's see here. Synthicura says, it'll be under $300. $299.99. Yeah, I'm expecting it to be $300. Like a $299. I'm expecting it to be that price. But we'll see what happens. I'll keep an open mind. This surprised me already. Frantic says, it was pretty devoid of actual reveals outside of Horse Heresy. We saw an STL of weapons for World Eaters and one bottle from the new Skiven line is coming. Can we talk about the Skiven? Please. Okay. Right. So, I love Warhammer Fantasy. This may be a surprise to some people, but it is doubtful. It is probably not a surprise to a lot of people. I love Warhammer Fantasy, okay? I adore it. And some of that love has translated into Age of Sigmar. Not a huge amount of it, I must admit. But I have some armies for Age of Sigmar. I have Beastmen who are on the Circle base. But I have a couple of armies from Warhammer Fantasy that have sort of been translated over into Age of Sigmar. One of them is Empire, and one of them is Skiven. And the Skiven line, I mean, most of my army is from Island of Blood. I'm gonna be honest. Most of my army is from Island of Blood, with the sickest rat ogres ever. And so, I am aware, having painted some weapons teams for the Skiven, I am aware that some of the sculpts for Skiven are pretty old. To say the least. Dan, Fury trigger warning. Yeah. Skiven have got a lot of really old sculpts. So it felt very strange to sort of give them like a day almost. Like, oh yeah, Age of Sigmar reveals we got a new Skiven codex coming out. And everyone's like, okay, what's going to be coming out with this new codex? A single assassin model. I mean, is that what Skiven needed? Like a new model? I don't know if it was for Death Master Skrik. I don't know if it was for him or if it was just a generic assassin model. To be honest, whenever I heard it was a single model, I lost all interest in the Skiven reveals. Oh, it's a new battle tome. Okay, I mean, who's even using their models for Age of Sigmar anymore? But like, I mean, I was just like, there was a lot that could have been done for Skiven. Skiven really need to be a little bit of a refresh. Even though that is a little bit of a sort of, it's a little bit of a Pandora's box, isn't it, when you ask for a range refresh? Because, firstly, you know that everything is going to go up in price. The moment that a range refresh is announced, it's like, oh, I hope you expect all your models to be more expensive, because they're going to be. Gabriel Marquis says, F in the chat for the neglected rats. Please, guys, F in chat for rats. So very sad. It sucks. Because Skiven are really awesome. They're so specific You know, there's such a unique fantasy race to Warhammer. Tamanel with the big donation there. Thank you so much. It says, some may think the Games Workshop prices are based on the miniature market, but they're really oriented by the price of the kidneys on the black market. Yes. That is very true. So obviously, you know, when the price of kidneys go down, Warhammer prices will go down. Unfortunately, they have never gone down. Yeah, look, Games Workshop set their own prices. Games Workshop set their own prices. They set their own prices. They dictate the prices of their models. And because Games Workshop materials are, most often than not, the very first thing that a new hobbyist will encounter in the hobby, that becomes the standard price. And so every other company that exists trying to compete with Games Workshop, because they all are, you know, it doesn't matter how obscure you are as a miniature company. You could be creating, I'm trying to think of like some of the more obscure miniature. You could be like Mad Dog with guns and just selling, you know, a book with some miniatures. But you're competing with Games Workshop for attention, for their eyeballs, for the local club scene. And to do that, the easiest thing to do is to reduce your price. And honestly, I think in a lot of ways, Games Workshop are probably responsible to a little bit of an extent for the lower prices amongst other companies. I don't think they're entirely, you know, responsible. Obviously, historical miniatures, they don't have like an IP. You know, you can't like monopolize the sale of Napoleonics. Anybody can do that, so you have to compete on price. But I think that there's definitely something to the fact that everyone else kind of reduces their price to try and get underneath Games Workshop. Not that that's hard, not that it's hard to do that. I should hasten to add, you know, you can very easily sell your models for a very, very reasonable price, still be cheaper than Games Workshop. I'm trying to think. I don't think Star Wars Legion are cheaper than Games Workshop. I think they're around the similar price, right? Like now that the price of all the Star Wars Legion stuff has gone up. Thomas says, have you found a new place to live yet, Discourse? No. Well, yes and no. Right now, I'm between houses. Right now, I am technically homeless. But I'm staying at my parents', so I've had to sort of set up everything there. I have wires running through my mother's house. She is not happy at all. She's not pleased. It's a bad time at the El Royale. I'm afraid. But thus needs must, you know, guys. Needs must. Spaztech says, I find it hard to care about Age of Sigmar, and all the fluff is uninteresting, and the 25 factions is just too much, and reeks of desperation on Games Workshop part. There are some things I like about Age of Sigmar. The Sylvanas models that were also revealed this week at Warhammer Fest look pretty cool. They look fine. They're not like the most exciting thing in the world, but I dig like the wood nymphs stuff. I'm not sure. I don't think that they can carry a full faction though. I miss the wood elves. I kind of miss like the wood elves, you know? I like the wood elves. Yeah, but I mean, I've spoken at length about my sort of problems with Age of Sigmar. I might probably do a video on it at some stage. Because most of my opinions on why I don't really like Age of Sigmar that much, they were basically described by Zorpazorp in one of his videos, but then he took his video down. So, you know, maybe I have to do a video now, get those views, you know, but also to explain, because I get asked all the time, like, what my problems with Age of Sigmar are. So I probably should go through it at some stage. The York Inquisitor asks, do you know if Flames of War is good? Flames of War is a World War II, right? Is a World War II sort of more vehicle-based game at a sort of smaller scale. I don't know the exact. I think it's 15 millimeters, but I'm probably wrong about that. And it's got a really good starter set, is what I've heard. It's got a really good onboard experience. I have not played the game. I have not played Flames of War, so I could not tell you. But from what it has a fan base. It has a pretty fervent fan base. There's people who really enjoy that game that I would trust their opinion on. So take that for what it is. I cannot confirm nor deny whether or not Flames of War is good. But I've heard good things. It just doesn't seem for me. I'm not like super into vehicle-based gameplay. So I like infantry. I dig my infantry. 50 millimeters says Dingo. Yeah, so it's 50 millimeters. which presents its own challenges. John on Tabletop says, Sims 4 is a great game, excellent buying costs, and a solid system. Well, there you go. There's John from On Tabletop giving you his opinion. And they play a lot of games on Tabletop, the old Beasts of War crew. So there you go. Eric Medved with the $10 donation. Thank you so much, Eric. It's very lovely of you. Thank you. Says, you Skiven in the 80s for D&D campaigns. This is the first live chat watched and first super chat for you. Love your channel. Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate that. It really, really helps out the channel. That's very kind of you. Skiven in the 80s are awesome. Skiven generally are awesome. I guess Skiven in the 80s are pretty cool too. Using Skiven in D&D, huh? That's kind of interesting. You just use them as sort of like monster. Did you stat them out yourself and use them as the DM? Lizzie Mini Pitting asks, what are the pros of the GURPS system? Oh, no. You're not getting me. I would be here for days telling you all about GURPS and why it's so good. I can't do that. It would kill the stream. Orc Dork with a $10 donation. Thank you so much, says, as someone who was once homeless himself, I hope this helps. Also, shout out to Games Workshop to Ashwaste. The third-party models they spurred look amazing. Everyone should check out Treadhead Rad on My Mini Factory. So there you go. Orc Dork recommends Treadhead Rad at My Mini Factory. Go check him out, especially if you got a 3D printer, presumably. Thank you so much for the donation, Orc Dork. That is very kind. I'm sorry to hear that you were homeless. I'm glad to hear, though, that you're presumably in a much better situation now. Ashwaste, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, like, I'll give this much to Ashwaste. The rules sound interesting, but I have a few bones to pick with Ashwaste. If this is not... you're probably not surprised, honestly. But I've got a few bones to pick with Ashwaste. I have a few bones. Before we go any further, I do want to say this. So, I was not excited for the squats, for the Leagues of Votann. Much to the chagrin of many people. I got ragged on a lot for my dislike of squats. Fair enough. It's a subjective experience. I mean, most of my disagreements with it are on aesthetics, until obviously the pricing is released, and then my disagreements will be more firm and concrete. But for Necromunda, Games Workshop have revealed a new gang, which is squats, but the real version of squats. And these look much, much better. In fact, I sort of saw these. I was like half asleep when I saw them. And I was like, wow, these are more Leagues of Votann models? These guys look great. Why didn't Games Workshop lead with these? I would have been really excited for these models. And then I discovered... Necromunda? That's so weird. Why did they do this? Why did they reveal squats for Necromunda at the same time they're doing the super squat equivalent? What's going on? Was there just like a couple of new guys in like 2 years ago who joined Games Workshop and were like, squats? I love squats. We gotta get them everywhere. Every opportunity we can. Like, what's happening here? Like, am I losing my marbles? Look, the thing is, I do actually like the look of these guys. I think they look pretty cool. Mostly because they look like they've been in some sort of industrial accident involving a hydraulic press. They've been squished down. And then they've kind of come out of it going, whoa. I sort of love that. I sort of like that. They've got like really weird proportions, which I'm a fan of. Now, I feel like we could have used more... We could have used more beard. And I feel like that's been the case with a lot of, like, the Leagues of Votann / squats. There's just not enough beard. Like, why aren't there beards on the women and stuff? Like, come on. Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that really quickly because I'm actually kind of excited for that. Although, so this is Necromunda, right? I mean, with Necromunda, what could that mean? What could Necromunda mean? Well, here it is. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. It's another book for Necromunda. And no one was surprised. Except for me. I was kind of surprised, honestly. I didn't expect this book of the Outlands. Why does this book exist? You got got this guy, you got the nomads, you got the squats, apparently. And you got this guy, an Orlok. I have 2 books already that consist of Orlok rules. Why am I getting another book for Orlok? This is a skirmish game. This is a skirmish game. There are games that I play that are skirmish level that don't have any books with stats. They have unit cards, or they have an app. God forbid. But for Necromunda, oh no, you need a library. You need a goddamn library to play Necromunda, because you need your rules for your Orloks, you need your rules for your Asher, you need your rules for, playing this campaign, or the campaign of Ruin. God damn, man. As an arbitrator, I arbitrated games. I arbitrated a campaign for Necromunda, which meant I had to own a lot of books for that game. Because I wanted to do things like have an NPC enforcer group. So rather than just being able to buy enforcers, I had to buy a whole book that consisted of loads of fluff and a ton of rules that I didn't need for that. And everybody needs to buy like extra books for the trade, for the trade market and things like that. And look, I get it. I get the Games Workshop really like money. But come on, they already sell the models, they already sell upgrade sprues. They sell these massive boxes, and they don't even have the audacity to release the rulebook again in the Ash Waste box. The Ash Waste box doesn't come with everything you need to run everything in Ash Wastes. It doesn't. It comes with the core rules again. So this is like rulebook number 5 for me. It comes with that. It comes with some of the rules towards running a campaign in Ash Wastes. But it doesn't have any stats for any vehicles at all. What is the point in this book? What is the point in this book? The campaign rules could have been a PDF. They could have been a PDF released on the website. Oh, you want to run a campaign in Ash Waste? Well, here we go. Why was it released as a big hardback book with the rules again? Okay, to try and onboard new players. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's fair. How about instead, though, here is a hot, crazy tip. Why not do the rules for Necromunda online? Because then you won't need to sell them over and over again to people, and just, put them in the books. Instead, the book in Ash Waste could have been how to run a campaign and the stats of everything you have. I don't know. This sort of I like the look of the squats, but this really disappointed me. I don't know why I'm disappointed, though. I mean, it's just Necromunda at this stage. Because they're just desperate to monetize the game in every single opportunity. Every single opportunity. They will never stop trying to monetize it so much. Warhammer Fest, yes. I'm afraid I must once again yuck in your yum. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Save versus Capitalism, $10 donation. Thank you so much for the donation. Says, like GURPS, do you say? Like GURPS, do you say? Would you like to discuss that game system on my channel, Save versus Capitalism? I could be convinced. Any opportunity to discuss GURPS. If you want to, my email is on, or even just like join Discord or something like that and hit me up. Get in touch with me. And we'll work something out, because I really like GURPS. And if I can sell people on GURPS, I will. I just don't want to, I feel like it would make for a very long and boring stream for a lot of people who wouldn't be interested in learning about the generic universal role-playing system. But thank you so much for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. So Necromunda, look, the vehicle rules sound fun. The vehicle rules for Necromunda sound fun. It sounds like you can indeed drive over people, and you can accidentally flip your car over and crash and burn. That all sounds good. I'm excited for that. Why, oh why, is there like 20 books in order to justify this? And here's the thing, right? I bet you this book, I bet, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong here, okay? Which is, I feel like I always want to be wrong, and I never am. Sometimes I'm wrong. This stream with the Horus Heresy pricing, for example, I was totally wrong on that. But I have this slight feeling that this book is going to be rules for the Nomad, for the Squats, and it's going to have vehicle rules, okay? It's going to have, like, vehicles. Maybe generic vehicles. I suspect, I hope I'm really wrong about this, that one, it won't have all the Ganger vehicles. I really hope I'm wrong there. And I'm not 100% sure on that. I think even Games Workshop will have to include gang-specific rules for vehicles there. If they plan on bringing out specific gang books with vehicles, I swear to God, I'm gonna lose it. Right, but I have to imagine that they will. It won't just be like the Orlok and some vehicle stuff, right? But I suspect there is in the Ashwaith rulebook a sort of mention of upgrades to vehicles. I suspect that the Book of the Outlands might not contain all the upgrades. And that might be in a separate book. I really hope I'm wrong there, but I suspect that might be the case. I really hope that this is like the one-stop shop for Ashwaith. I mean, it's not already. There's already a rule book that has the campaign system outside of this book. There should have just been like an Ashwaith book. Like, why wasn't there just an Ashwaith book that had all of this in it and all of the rules for running a campaign? And even that would have been another book in a system that doesn't need books. Sorry, okay, right. I know not everybody cares about Necromunda as much as I do. I really like Necromunda. I really like it. And it really sucks to me that we're getting screwed again. But at least I guess there's cars, so there's that. What was I going to talk about before that stuff? I can't remember. I got brought in by squats. I got distracted by the squats. Janitor says, Escher vehicle booklet, $15. Yeah, well. Oh, yeah. Yeah, $15. No, I think it'll be more like $35 for a hard book. And we'll get all of the stats of gangers again. And we'll get a couple of extra vehicles. And the Escher will have a special vehicle mechanic, which will be like poison wheels or something. And you can shoot poison out of your wheels. And it won't be very good against high toughness targets. And they'll be put in a box against the Goliath. Memories. Transport of the Ashwaith, $, says Luke McDonaldson. Yep, definitely. Saint Akira says miniature gaming as a live service. Yes, 100%. I really feel like Necromunda is very much the pioneer of the live service model. Well, no, I'm wrong. Warhammer 40k was. And this is actually the thing that I think Horse Heresy feels like it has been amended in a lot of ways in a response to criticisms of 40k, right? With the compendiums, for example, we were talking about that earlier, rather than codices, and codex creep has very much been a problem for Warhammer 40k. So is the compendium a response? Yes and no, I think. I think the compendium is there just to get a really, like, basically they know that there are a lot of armies, and they want to just get a lot of armies out and playable. I suspect that there'll be more books for Horse Heresy, and I suspect that they probably will be better than the existing armies. Because 8th edition started this way. It started with compendiums, and it was great, and then, soon enough, books came out, and power creep was pushed forward. Intentionally. It's the only thing that we can discern, because it happens over and over again. I mean, no one's that incompetent. Like, this is done intentionally. I presume that there is a push from the executive level to make sure that new things are as competitive as possible. And, at this stage, I'm starting to suspect that whenever a book comes out and it's not super competitive, that, that was the mistake. Like, that was the screw up. But, I mean, how did the designers even get enough time to create these rules? There's so many rules in a Warhammer book. How do they get enough time to create these rules, get it all play tested and out on time? I mean, the turnaround time is what with this stuff? Like the season model, it's just nuts. Although there was actually pretty good news from the sort of Warhammer Seasons model. Now they are releasing points for free, so now you don't need to keep up with the new books, with the new competitive books. Sorry, this is just me when I'm trying to think of the latest Games Workshop thing. This is my little what was that again? With the competitive books. Oh, Kenneth Kitchen super chatted the $1. Thank you so much, Kenneth. I really appreciate that. That is really lovely of you. Thank you for the tip. It doesn't have the points values in it anymore, so you can get that for free. And they released it also on their website. They're not just doing it in the app, which is really good, because their app sucks and no one uses it, and that is unforgivable. Just because there are things created like Wahapedia by the players because they desperately want to play the game that Games Workshop made. They want it in a playable state, and Games Workshop aren't able to do that apparently. Doesn't let Games Workshop off the hook at all. Let's see, Trader Gotchman says, Necromunda spiders are one of the toughest regiments in the Astra Militarum, but no one's talking about them. I've always wanted to run a Necromunda gang. I don't know who it would be. It would be like a proxy for maybe Orlok or something. But like a guard regiment that have just been lost in the hive for like 100 years. Like they were given orders like hundreds of years ago to like hold this tunnel or something during like a civil war. And they've just been down there. Like they never got orders to leave. So now they're just like generations later and it's like their duty to like hold the line. And they're just this bedraggled like Astra Militarum regiment stuck down there. Down in the tunnels, just passing on their uniform to the next generation. That always sounded really cool to me. Chemican says, no problem, Discourse. Any word on Tomb Kings? Any word on Tomb Kings? No. I don't think anyone's talking about Tomb Kings much. I mean, I am. The Great Book of Grudges recently, well, not recently, it was like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago now, was doing a Tomb King army, was painting those up, and I was following him doing so on Twitter, and I thought that was quite exciting, because I like to see the Tomb Kings. I remember playing against them quite a bit back in the olden days. Already seeing them on the table. Oh, wow. Too much, I think. Okay, let's see. Symbiote Mo says, wasn't that an episode of Doctor Who? All right, I don't know the context. Jumpfin says, some people think that that's a Mr. Sin and Mr. Bin who do separate books for Age of Sigmar, one overpowered and one underpowered. So the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Yeah, I mean, look. Games Workshop are a multi-billion-dollar company. They are. There is a lot of money in Games Workshop, but they aren't the most sophisticated company in the world. They just aren't. And they're not exactly the most, I feel like there is a lot of the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing often. And from what I understand, and from what the stories that I have heard from internal Games Workshop, a lot of stuff is done at the whim of individuals. That there is a surprising lack of planning from what I have heard. I don't know how much I can say, but I'll just say this much. I don't think that, I think people should, how to put this? I think it would surprise a lot of people how little it takes to get new games and new systems just done, new armies and things like that, just decide to be done. And probably there's not like a huge amount of support for it within the broader company, and the decisions are a little bit erratic. I'll say that much. That's what I have heard. That is the information that I have heard. But I don't know how much I can say without giving some gooses away. So I'm gonna... Very Silent Mouse says, is there still a Van Saar gang? Unfortunately, Mr. Mouse, there is indeed still a Van Saar gang, because I have fallen victim to their 2+ ballistic skill quite a lot in a lot of Necromunda games, and it upsets me every time. There is nothing I like more in life than getting into melee with a Van Saar gang member. The Animaster says, you just described every American company ever. Okay, fair enough. It's a very British style, though. Like, I mean, it's hard to explain. So, like, their legal department, for example, I have worked in departments like that. I suspect, like, I've never seen their actual department, but I suspect it's just a couple of guys being paid at a pretty average wage, just scrolling through the internet looking for things to demonetize. Is kind of how I imagine it. And maybe on Reddit for the rest of the day, because that was basically how I rolled. Let's see. Robert Kelly says, what gang are the cannibal ones? That's the gang I want to try. The models look great. That is the meat grinder cults. The meat grinder cults. And I think they're really fun because they are one of the gangs that really explain why Necromunda is what it is, and why the Imperium is utterly awful, and why no one would ever want to live there. The meat grinder cults. They create the solid green. Spoilers. They mush people down into meat, into the corpse starch that is fed throughout the Imperium. The Imperium. But specifically in Necromunda, because it is so big, it is a massive hive, and there are a lot of people who die very often. The corpses are brought to the meat grinders, who then grind them down into meat that are then passed on and sold back to the hivers who eat them for their sustenance. And the meat grinder cult, literally, they go mad because there's a specific aspect of corn that is sort of satisfied by this grinding down of flesh. Not all of them are always dead. And there are stories of meat grinders who literally just, with so much despair, they just threw themselves into the grinder to die because it is such an awful, awful existence. And so surprisingly, this is a place where chaos cults thrive because it is just so awful in terms of the material conditions. And I really love that. And they are crazy in the game. They are really, really good. They're very, very strong. Frasier Blood, I says, it's high time for Kevin Roundtree to be fired. Well, it's kind of funny. Like, if you remember, whenever Kevin Roundtree first started, it felt like Games Workshop were doing a lot of good stuff. And it has backslid so hard. It has backslid so very hard. And I'm not sure if there's going to be any improvement to it. It's something that I have noticed that in all my time of working on it, I think this is something as well, is that what you'll find is that the people who are really down on Games Workshop tend to have been in the hobby for a while because they've just gotten fed up with it. I feel like Games Workshop do operate, again, a slash and burn policy where they try to push things. They push things as much as possible, and eventually there's just a lot of people who just drop, who just can't handle it anymore. And so they play other games, because there's so many other great games as well. And so I think it's, generally speaking, it's newer people who are like really, really, really into Games Workshop and continue to play a lot of Games Workshop. That's just like it's like an anecdotal experience, just a little observation, just something I've sort of observed. Broad Squad says, any thoughts on the new Necromunda squads? Well, yeah, I spoke about it earlier. I really like them. Obviously, we don't know, like, the pricing. We don't know I'm going to presume that they're the same price as the regular gangers. We don't know the stats or anything like that. But I like them. I like the aesthetic. They're sort of what I was missing with the League of Votann. Obviously, the League of Votann also got a trike. Can we look at this trike? Because it's not a trike. It's not a real trike. It's not a real trike. Let's see. Okay, let's do this. We got our, here we go. We got everything. Obviously, there was like some Warcry stuff, but I don't really, I've got a Warcry box. I just haven't opened it. I need to play it at some stage, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Let's see. So we got the Leagues of Votann, and we saw this thing. Well, this thing is incredible, obviously, but yeah, we got this. So this is the new trike, I guess. Like, this is sort of, yeah. And I don't know, guys. Not for me. Like, this is obviously we've got nothing to go on. This is pure aesthetics right now. I don't like the hover technology. I get it. Like, I understand it, right? So, obviously, the Leagues of Votann are sort of, basically, they're utilizing technology from the Age of Strife, which was, like, whenever technology was at its zenith. And that's where all, like, the robots and stuff come from, the Men of Iron. And there's obviously some design decisions that have, you know, been carried through from some of the Blackstone Fortress design of the Men of Iron, in that, you know, you've got like those rounded edges. The problem is, right, and I kind of like this. I kind of like this idea that at some stage in 40k setting, at some stage during the galaxy, there was a time when humanity was a super sci-fi faction. It was like super all like really high technology and super powered, and their technology looked like every other generic sci-fi, and I think that's kind of fun, you know, like that it all looked like Mass Effect or something, that everything looked like super generic sci-fi. But now we're in like the Age of the Imperium, which is all awful and you know, Blanche-esque, right? That it's all sort of gothic and things like that. And so, like, the relics are from a time of generic sci-fi time. And I think that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. But I don't know if an entire faction being based on their entire aesthetic direction being, how about a generic sci-fi faction? I don't know if that's the most exciting thing in the world. And this trike is sort of, this bicycle is kind of emblematic of that. I think, to me, it looks kind of a little bit generic. I feel like it could have looked better if they had leaned into the rounded edges, made it look a little bit more kind of Russian, like kind of like a little bit more like cosmonaut sort of style, you know, like I'm going to the one place that capitalism has not conquered, space. You know, if they had gone for that sort of vibe, Tim Curry, you know, in Red Alert 3, I would have really liked that. Like Tesla troopers and stuff. I think that could have looked really cool, but they didn't go for that. They just went for generic sci-fi. And I'll be honest, this doesn't look that fun to move around a board either. It's got that one little connector. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't really do it for me, to be honest. But that's just like my opinion, man. Like this is like pure subjective stuff. This is pure subjective stuff, because really, I mean, all we've got to go on, I mean, that's why I'm not hyped for squats at all. Like, we don't know anything about them. We know, like, a little bit of fluff about how they kind of have computers that, you know, are slowly dying, which, okay, fair enough. But we don't really know any of their stats. We don't know any of the price points. We don't know how they're being created. And we're getting another army for Warhammer 40k, which, let's be honest, the thing that Warhammer 40k was needed was not another army. Like, I don't get it. Okay, so Danbrook says, what miniature isn't partially purchased on aesthetics, really? 100%. One of the most important things for miniatures are aesthetics. It's why we're playing a miniature war game. We're not playing with chits. We're not playing ogre, right? Like, we are playing with miniatures here, and miniatures are really important, and it's why lots of tournaments have rules for painting them and things like that. You have to have models painted. And that makes sense to me. It does make sense to me. It's something I go back and forth on a lot about accessibility versus aesthetics and spectacle, because we want models to look cool and we want things to look really cool. Although, I will be honest, I feel like sometimes Games Workshop maybe go a little bit overboard in aesthetic. Like, Age of Sigmar, I think, is a very busy looking game with a lot of very busy models. Like, far too busy sometimes, I think. Let's see here. Fraser Bloodaxe says, I do not like the generic sci-fi look aesthetic of the new squats. Yeah, me neither. I'm not a big fan of it either. But I kind of hope that there's some Men of Iron. I do like the Men of Iron, because they kind of have this a little bit of a 50s thing going on, which I'm kind of a fan of. Let's see here. Jazz Hut says, it really draws upon Mobius's style. Sorry, whenever all I hear about Mobius, I'm just thinking of the movie, which I have not seen. Modifius or Mobius? What Mobius? Come on, guys. It can't be the movie, right? William Ing says, I like wheels and tracks. Hover stuff is for Xenos weebs. Well, as someone who collects Dark Eldar, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the hover stuff either. I'm not a fan of the hover stuff. The space, like, the thing that always got me was, why did the Primaris have hover things? I just don't like it that much. I mean, admittedly, the, what do you call them? What do you call the classic Space Marine hover thing? Their scout fast car, guy in the sidecar shooting pew, 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 pew. You know the vehicle. You all know the vehicle I'm talking. I'm pretty adequately described it, I think. That thing was a hover vehicle, but I didn't really care for it that much. So, I mean, well, rather, I didn't care about it. I didn't think about it that much. Whereas with the Primaris stuff, I'm, like, always thinking about that sort of weird hover stuff that they got going. The Land Speeder, yes. I'm so surprised anyone actually understood what the hell I was talking about there. Let's see here. Ronald Carlson says, let me see if I can find that again. It was in the fluff somewhere. Mobius was a French artist. Okay, I don't know Mobius' stuff. Matt says GW minis in general are just over the top with detailing. It's overwhelming when it comes to painting side of things. Yes, I agree. Let me show you. This is what I've been doing. This is what I have been creating. Okay, you probably won't be able to see it because it's like a little tiny miniature, right? It's a little tiny miniature. This is a cosmonaut. Okay, this guy. I mean, there's not a lot going on here. He's just a cosmonaut. He's got a knife and a shield because he's fighting on the moon with NASA. You know, he's got to protect it for the Soviet Union. But really, I mean, when it comes to actually painting this mini, skeleton horde, and, you know, a bit of bronze for the helmet, and a little bit of gray for the shield, and things like that. And then I did a little red detailing, and a dry brush. And that's a mini done. If this was a Games Workshop miniature, there'd be like 30, like there'd be belts wrapped around here. You know, he'd have like a headband or something. There'd be like pouches hanging off the sides of his legs. You know, like, it would be too much. I'd be having to, like, snakebite leather a bunch of stuff as well. Because Games Workshop, they over-detail stuff. And it reminds me a lot of the old classic argument that you used to get in video games a lot, which was the objective review of a video game, where you had, the graphics are X, they're like 9 out of 10. And I feel like Games Workshop sometimes take that attitude, and I think people sometimes generally in the community take this attitude of, there's lots of details on the model, therefore the model is good. And no, not always. Like, sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it is way too much. Andrew with the $5 donation. Thank you so much. Mobius is a French comic book artist who is one of the grandfathers of sci-fi, made the spacesuits for Alien, and the Incal is a great look at his work. That sounds really awesome. I actually didn't know. I've never heard of Mobius before. I can't believe this. That's great. I'm going to check that out. Let me just pop this down. I'm going to type that down. I'm going to check that out after the stream. Mobius. That's really awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know about that, guys. That's really cool. But yeah, Games Workshop, I think, really do. They go too hard sometimes. Like, too hard. Like, sometimes when I'm painting a Horde army, I just want to paint the Horde army, you know? Like with these guys. These little droids, you know? Roger dudes. Like, all I want is just to dry brush this guy. I don't want to have, like, 20 belts on this dude, like, spending, like, 3 hours. Sometimes you just gotta ignore that stuff, which kind of feels bad, because Games Workshop will give you like a ton of detail on a model, and they'll like give you lots of depth, and it's really sharp, crisp detail, and you'll be like, I'm not painting that. This is like my 40th model I'm painting. It's like if you've ever seen, I recently painted a lot of Gene Stealer cultists. Man, those guys have got so much going on, and it's kind of a bit annoying, because all I wanted to do was, like, slap a bit of paint on and be done. It's too much, but yeah, I feel like sometimes Games Workshop do it just because they have this conception that they are the best modeling company in the world, and therefore they have to be throwing as much detail and break up colors as much as possible. They don't always need to do that. The occasional strap is good for breaking up colors, because it does add, but sometimes less is more. Sometimes less is more. Jess Hunt says, is that for Lunar? Yes, the little cosmonaut is for Lunar. I've got my cosmonauts here. I've got a bunch of them, and now I've been putting together some NASA ones as well. I can't find my NASA guys. They're around here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, I've been putting together NASA. I haven't painted them yet, but here's the little guy with a flag. I'm not looking forward to painting his American flag at all. I'm not looking forward to that. And of course, because it is lunar, people are fighting on the moon. So there's one armed with a shotgun. They're a lot of fun. I really like the lunar minis because they're so easy to paint. Literally just contrast paint and a bit of red. It's a lot of fun. I really like it. William Penny says, with a gun. Yes. Let's see here. Description sounds like a scout bike, thinking of land speeder. Yeah. Riley says, totally Games Workshop minis are honestly a chore to paint. They can be. Sometimes they're fun. Like, I actually didn't mind painting the Gene Stealer cult army, but that's because I decided really super on that I was just gonna ignore a lot of details and paint a little bit of metal here and there. I was just gonna ignore a lot of the straps and things like that. Because otherwise I would have been there all day on a single model. And you can do that with some stuff. Like with skirmish games, I'll spend a lot more time on models. But for like an army level game, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Antenna Changeling says, I have 40 plastic Death Company miniatures. It's like painting 40 characters. It was a real chore. I can imagine that. I could see that happening, yeah. Deli Hunter says, Lunar for the win. Yeah, it's really fun. It's totally underappreciated. It's a really underappreciated game. Oh my god. I'm knocking things all over the place. Ah! The beauty of the live stream. I've got like a camera precariously up, but I just wanted to show, look at this art. Look at this art. Come on. That is so good. Isn't that such good art? It's like 2 astronauts on the moon in a fist fight. Whenever I think Space Marines, that's what I think. Yes, it's NASA with harpoons. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of Lunar. I'm actually a really big fan. Blackside Studios do it. I'm a really big fan of Blackside Studios. They're a very transparent company. And they're expensive. They are expensive, but there is a good reason for that. It is because they are a small company and they don't have a lot of scale, and they try to keep things as cheap as possible. And even when doing so, they make sure the things like the packaging and stuff is really nice. So I really like that about them, and they're very transparent in their business methods. They're very consumer friendly. They even eschew things like Kickstarter, which is really tough to do. So I check those guys out. They're really awesome. I would definitely recommend them. And Lunar seems to be the funnest skirmish miniature war game ever made. So because you're in low gravity and you're bopping into people and they're going flying all over the place. It's all about your suit tearing. If your suit tears, like, you're done for, you know? It's a very small game, but it seems like a lot of fun. Let's see here. William Penny says, it's not the number of detailing, it's the crispness that make it for me. A ton of dull, smudgy details, way worse than a little bit of sharp, well-defined detail. I agree, William. So one of the worst things in the world when painting, I find, is when you don't know what it is you're painting. Like, that is possibly one of the worst things ever. And you've got, like, the detail just kind of falls into itself. Not a fan of that. And you're having to make guesses about what something is. Oh, jeez. That's always the worst. That's always the worst. Sometimes it happens to me with bad sculpts. When I print some sculpts out, like, for 3D printing. I've also had some minis that I have bought from sort of smaller companies. Some metal minis occasionally where the detail is a little bit like, ooh, it's a little bit off. Let's see here. Syrup Thirst, what 3D printer do you recommend? I have two. And they're both as good as each other, honestly. I think I use the Mars Pro is the one that I would typically use. But honestly, like, I think that most affordable 3D printers these days are pretty good. Dan says, the new DP is a great example of too much detail. The demon prints, yes. So, the demon prints, because that, of course, Games Workshop have revealed Chaos Space Marines. So, there's a lot of stuff going on with this. Okay, so these are the new Possessed. And you'll see what I mean. Like, they're very detailed models. And that's cool. But then you start to think, how many Possessed am I gonna have? Like, how many of these guys do I have to paint? And I haven't read the article. So I don't know how flexible these guys are. But they look kind of monopose. Do they have a lot of options? Because, like, this is the kind of stuff should have a lot of options, right? Like, this should have a ton of options. As far as I can tell, they don't really say. They don't really say how much options it's got. And these are the cultists. I do like the cultists. I think they look kind of cool. Obviously, they're pretty in deep with Chaos. You can see here. Yeah, they're wearing, like, helmets and stuff. But, you know, it's a look. It's not too bad, but it's very reminiscent to me of the Daughters of Cain. Just the face mask. And I get that this is based on the sort of same, I think it's the same sprue as the Blackstone Fortress. Let's see here. And then there's a lot of weird stuff going on. That guy's face, very, this reminds me a lot of, oh my god, I can't believe I've forgotten it. What do you call the one set in the Arctic? It's classic 80s. They did the sequel, which was a prequel. It's the dog, and it changes around. It's got a lot of body horror elements in it. Oh my god, I can't believe it. And they're testing each other's blood. Come on, like, I always forget this stuff on stream. But let's see here. Yeah, and this guy's got like some tendrils and stuff. There's some pretty cool models. Like, they're not like super, like, for me, I guess. The Thing, yes, The Thing, you know. So thank you, thank you, the glance of. And this guy is having a pretty rough Friday night. I'll be honest. He has, yeah, that is a bad kebab. And then a weird arm. So, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff going on. I do like the fact that they're very horror models, you know? Like, this is kind of interesting. I do like this. What are these guys? Torments. That's kind of cool. Like, I do like that it seems like the demons have almost, like, emerged from the bodies. That's pretty cool. I do like that. And they're pretty gross. This will require a pretty good paint job, though, I think, in order to make it look as good as this. I think with me, it'll just be like one big brown smudge. People won't know what it is. These guys look pretty cool. This guy reminds me of the Witch King from, like, Lord of the Rings. He kind of reminds me of, like, some Nazgul stuff going on there. So they've gone really hard on the sort of Cthulhu kind of body horror stuff. This one's kind of interesting. This is like the head of a psyker that is using blood transfused from this guy back here in order to power the psyker's head. So the head is, like, on life support. That's pretty cool. Like, that's a very imaginative model. And I think this is what I would want from Chaos, rather than more Chaos Space Marines. Like, this is the kind of stuff I want from Chaos. Just really interesting, weird characters. The problem is... Right. Okay, good. Whew. I was worried that this would be, like, Cultist number 7. And there would be, like, 10 more of these guys. It's like, it's a little bit specific, but this is actually for the Dark Commune, which is a HQ unit. Good! You can do more stuff like this for HQ units. think someone mentioned it earlier. Monopose is okay for units that are individuals, for skirmish games or games where there's not multiples. But the moment you start bringing in multiples of the same monopose sculpt, oh, we got problems then. So the models look good. And to be honest, I mean, when I think of Games Workshop stuff, I'm not necessarily worried about the model quality. Like, I know they can make interesting sculpts. My problems are different. So, I mean, some good news for Horus Heresy, I guess. The box set is cheaper than what in our worst fears, it could have been. This stuff exists now. That's good. I'm excited about that. Where's the Demon Prince? There was like a Demon Prince. Is this like a separate thing? Is this separate? World Eaters were announced as well, which is exciting, I guess. I don't know. I have two thoughts on this whole like World Eaters thing, because it's like the Death Guard and stuff as well. So you get all these different flavors of Space Marines, and while I do like the fact that there's different flavors of Space Marines, sometimes I feel like maybe the Tyranids should like get some new sculpts. It's hard not to feel like there are armies being left out consistently in favor of sort of what really should be very small niche kind of forces. Whoops, this is how I make my thumbnails. It's how I make my thumbnails, guys, in GIMP. Can you imagine that someone actually created a program called GIMP? That's incredible to me, and it's incredible every single time. The Demon Prince looks okay. He looks kind of interesting. He's a very busy model. And it's kind of funny because they created... here he is. So they created really super interesting, imaginative cultist models. And then this is the Demon Prince. It's like, okay. He looks kind of like every other Demon Prince. He just kind of... big tail. Big old face. Horns on the head. I mean, it's like the least imaginative out of all of them. Kind of my problem, you know? But, I mean, it's fine. I don't know. I'm not really super excited by this thing. I do like that they've got a different head for each god. That's kind of cool. That is pretty cool. Let's see here. The Trader okay. Hurricane Live says, more medieval chaos. Yeah, I really like that. I kind of like that. Coastcraft says, Discourse Miniatures, you play lots of different games. You're an advocate for consumers and YouTube presence is growing. What's your ideal position in 10 years? Queen of YouTube? Own game published? The Queen of YouTube! You would not have a Dark Lord, but in his place, a Queen! As terrible as the Dawn! No, probably not that. I probably wouldn't want the One Ring, to be honest, because I would be immediately tempted by it. I would totally go full Saruman and be like, we can use the ring against the Dark Lord. We can use it against him. To be honest, I don't really have like a 10-year plan at all. I don't like have like a 10-year plan. I don't know where this is going. I'd love to continue to be making more videos. I really enjoy making content, but I would like to run a game. I've got a lot of game ideas. Most of them are probably terrible, but I'd love to make some games. I think what I'd like to do in the near future, maybe this year at some stage, is maybe get some STL files done. I've got some ideas for some models that I think would be pretty cool, and I would like to maybe distribute those via Patreon or something. I think would be kind of fun. But that's like, I need to find a home to live in first, and then I can kind of worry about that stuff, I think. Right now, I'm sort of... everything's up in the air, you know? So I'm gonna get a house, and then I'm gonna be like, what about miniatures? Let's see, what am I gonna do with miniatures? Robert Rose says, Horus Heresy is about the Primarchs passing down their daddy issues to Space Marines. That is a very succinct explanation. It's kind of like you look at the Black Templars and you go, why are you the way that you are? And there you go. There you go. The 90th Emperor of the Holy Britannian Empire says, hi there, am I alone in thinking recent GW releases are looking very generic? Even the new squad stuff looks like Imperial Guard Primaris. Yes and no. I mean, I think that the Chaos stuff is probably some of the best Chaos models that they have ever done. Ever. Whereas I would say that definitely the Leagues of Votann are like some of the most generic stuff. The very sort of Space Marine It's very Space Marine armor about them, and I'm not a fan of that. But I like the Chaos stuff. Twitter Guardsman says, are you going to 3D print yourself as an Astra Militarum trooper? I would definitely add you to my Gideon drop troops. No, I am not. I am not like Brent from Goobertown Hobbies. I will not have dozens and dozens and dozens of miniatures with my own face on them. Assembling little armies of Goobertown. Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's see here. Matt says, at least the queen of reasonable GW criticism. Well, thank you very much. I think it's reasonable too. A lot of people disagree for some reason. I don't know why. All I want is for the prices to, you know, adequately reflect the product. Satidalo says, and this is how the Dark Mistress came to be. Yes, quite so. Stormwolf says, I like the 40k version of the Demon Prince. The AOS variant looks like a toddler designed it, in my opinion. I'm actually not... I remember Bellicor, right? Because everybody remembers Bellicor. Because it was like the big model that was sort of halfway created to sort of win the Games Workshop's annual What's Our Best Model We've Done This Year. Someone created Bellicor just to win that because it was like lots of detailing, big model. Everybody loves it. Let's see here. Matt says, step 1, stability. Step 2, world domination. Yes, step 1, house. Step 2, the world. Let's see. Meta Ad Infinitum says, controversial choice, but I'm with you, though I think Piranha might just edge it out. Oh, I don't know what that was in reference to. I've just come in halfway through a conversation. Sorry, guys. You keep putting on. Okay, so Jacob Hobbs says the Photoshop version did on Reddit of the Votan track with actual wheels looks so much better than the grab pods. I thought, yes, I saw that. I thought it looked way better as well. If it had just been wheels, like actual wheels, it would have looked so much better. So much better. Ronald Carlson says, didn't know there was just something about the Hammerhead that catch my imagination when I first saw it. I quite like the Hammerhead too. I'm not like the biggest fan of Ty. I'm not like the biggest fan of the mechs and stuff like that, but they've got a vibe. They've got like a style to them, you know? And at the time, really, Ty were sort of seen as like one of the more generic sort of kind of armies. Whereas compare them to like Lees of Votan and like, yikes. You know what I mean? Red Squad says, GW offers you $1 million to make your show Warhammer Plus exclusive, accept or deny. I would deny that, I think, actually. Even for $1 million. $1 million is a lot of money. I mean, I don't know if anyone here has seen $1 million, except for like maybe in the movies. But I assure you, something gets lost in the translation. And just a little White Goodman there. $1 million is a lot of money, but on the other hand, I think one of the problems with if you were to go into the Warhammer Plus ecosystem, it's why I don't think that very many creators will do this, is that you lose creative control of your product, of your content, of your creative juices, you know. And one of the reasons why I really like YouTube is that I can basically make whatever I want, and then worry that my channel is going to go down in flames because it underperformed. So yeah, I enjoy that. Whereas I feel like if you were in Warhammer Plus, firstly, no one would be watching your content because no one's really watching Warhammer Plus, and secondly, it would have to be like super milquetoast kind of. I don't even know, what would I talk about? Oh, like what would I talk about if I was on Warhammer Plus? Like what even would I talk? I can't tell you about other games. I'm not allowed to do that. I can't criticize Games Workshop at all for all their terrible practices. I guess I would just be a hype beast. I'd just be milquetoast miniatures, unboxing another Space Marine. And I don't know if the world needs that at all. Let's see here. Athena Changeling says, between the full 40k indoctrined fan and the nearly all-heating commissar, we needed something. You took that space. Thank you very much. Yep. And Danbrook says, the sexy gravel voice is back. This mic as well, it makes me sound a lot deeper. It makes me sound a lot deeper. It's kind of, I've got like all the bass turned up and stuff like that. It's because you got to get that radio voice. I get called too screechy. If you ever hear me whenever I have the videos where I was using the lav mic, I got criticized for being too screechy. So for this stuff, I tried to lower down try to make it a little bit easier on the ears. Flying says, this will get lost in the chat, but all I want is some love for the Emperor's Children in 40k. Well, it was not lost. I have found you. And yeah, I mean, I really like Slaanesh. I'm a big fan of Slaanesh. You know, love their work. Big fan. Would love to, you know, do dinner or something sometime. But yeah, I guess they're like the one that's missing, right? Because it's inevitable, though. They're gonna get done. We got Death Guard. We've got the oh god, the Zinch guys, the Babylonian pyramid guys, right? And then we've also got the World Eaters as well, Khorne. So like Emperor's Children is like the next guys, you know, like they are the next guys. Meta ad infinitum says £1,000,000, take the bread and run. Yeah, I mean, like £1,000,000 is really, it's a lot of money, guys. Like, it really is. It's a lot of money, but I don't think so. Not even for $1 million, I don't think, because like, I mean, at that stage I'm just working in marketing, and I don't really want to work in marketing. Marcel Dufour says, with the donation of $5 Canadian, thank you so much. That is really, really appreciated. Says, have you tried Gaslands or Silver Bayonet? I recently found both systems and I am hooked. I have not played Gaslands. I know of it. One of the things that kind of pisses me off Gaslands is I sort of enjoy, God forbid, I kind of enjoy building models. So even these little droids that are kind of infamous in the Star Wars Legion community for being pretty awful, I actually enjoyed putting those together. I did it last night on stream with Commissar Roach on Twitch, and I feel like Gaslands doesn't really have that as much. Gaslands doesn't really have that kind of assembly. Now, I know that you do customize your sort of little matchbox. You get little... So for anybody who doesn't know, Gaslands is basically a sort of a vehicle-based game where you use, like, Hot Wheels. And you paint your Hot Wheels and you kind of customize them and add on little things and you fly around shooting at each other. You know, it's kind of like Ash Waste in a way. It's kind of like that Mad Max style. And that sounds really fun. But in terms of... I kind of think I would miss the assembly. I get that you customize, but it's not quite the same. Silver Bayonet, I do have the book. I have not had a game in yet. I'm painting the models. I'm painting the Napoleonics, and I've got so many models to paint. So I really want to play it. I've got like some vampires. I got some monsters that I'm going to use as the third-party monster. For those of you who don't know, Silver Bayonet is a horror-based miniature war game set during the Napoleonic era, where you are playing as sort of agents of, you know, the French or the British or the Prussians, etc, 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 and you are like special agents trying to hunt down monsters and fae and things like that, because in this setting the cannon fire from Napoleon's armies were too much, and they ended up tearing a hole in the sky, and all ghosts and goblins and ghouls all came flooding into the world. And it seems like a really fun game, because you've got me, I'm playing as like the Russians, say, and then you got my opponent who's playing as like the English, and then there's like a monster, a third-party monster that's AI controlled, and that sounds like a lot of fun to play. Grim Tim Tim says, Gaslands got me into miniature games after a 15-year hiatus. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. What's this? She's a Dalek, George says. Oh, did my internet kind of... The internet of my parents is really bad. It's like really poor. So I apologize if I'm coming across a little bit robotic. Luckily, the music is kind of fitting for that. It's a little bit much. There we go. I really like this album, but like some of the songs in it are a bit crazy. Beep boop. Call the mechanic. Mechanicus, yes indeed. Dislocated Design says, Prius the Machine Spirit's voice. Okay, so yeah, we're back to normal. Let's see. Dislocated Design says, Machine Spirit, heed my command. I'm trying to remember some of the quotes from the Imperial Guard builder units in Dawn of War. Thank you, Machine Spirit, for this safe arrival. John says, so basically the same storyline as that OOP French Hell game. Oh, I actually think I know the game you're talking about, but I cannot remember it. Oh, no. Oh, I can't remember the name of that. What is the name of that? Stuart Thorpe says, Robot Discourse is still great. Thanks! I presume I'm back to normal now, right? I presume I'm normal now. Like, it sounds normal now, right? I haven't, like, gone nuts. Amada Kara says, Gaslands is a futuristic game where all the heroes eat high-protein diets, work out lots, and drive fast cars with even faster women. Or I could be confused with Fast and Furious family. Yes, 90th Emperor says, a challenge worthy of my skill. Yes, indeed. George says, we can do this. So let me know, guys, has it improved? Has it improved? Eldorado, normal at the moment. Well, if it goes robotic again, just let me know, and I will do nothing about it and just hope that it fixes itself. William says, you were never normal. This is very true, I'm afraid. Meta ad infinitum says, you keep getting really staticky and robotic. I think that's what people are getting at with the Robo Gravel voice jokes. Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that, guys. I don't know. Let me know when it goes robotic, I guess. Let me know when it goes weird. Ronald says, figured your mother was just cutting random cords in her house until you finally stop. Yeah. Well, if she had her way, I'd be using like a wireless dongle, and I would just be dropping out here and there, and it would just be awful. Trader Grassman says, there's a lot more to life than money. 100%. This is actually something I had to realize as I got older. I started to realize that actually, you know, I think there's such a thing as just security, and then you have to start following your passions. You know, I think hobby, it's why I really love like things like the miniature wargame hobby, because it's so important. It allows someone to be creative. That's what I really enjoy about it. It allows me to be creative. It allows me to, and even in a sort of very limited way, like I don't do a lot of kit bashing. I don't do a lot of crafty stuff, and I often paint within the lines. You know, I've got my droids, they're being painted the sort of way that the normal droids are painted. I've got my cosmonauts, I'm trying to paint them accurate towards what the cosmonaut uniforms wear, to an extent. And, like, you know, I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy exercising creativity within this sort of specific constraints. And, you know, if you don't have stuff like that, I think that life can get really boring really fast. You can't just sort of consume. Sometimes you gotta, like, create stuff. And I think it's a really great... I love miniature wargame for being an outlet for that. I think it's really fun. And then, obviously, with the narratives and telling stories and stuff, it's just awesome. Meta says, you've gone in and out of the robot voice a few times. I do think there's a good bit of lag between you when you speak and when the message was sent. Ooh. Jacob says, money isn't everything, but it is when you don't have any. Yes, 100%, obviously. Yeah, so money is super important. You need to get, like, a base level of security, I think. I'm feeling that pretty acutely right now. But, like, you know, it's still important that you get stuff that are more ethereal, less tangible, I guess. There's things that money cannot buy, which it's very true. It sounds very trite, but it is super true. Let's see here. Games Workshop actually did plastic Daleks and Cybermen back in the 80s. Yeah, there's actually there is an existing Doctor Who miniature war game. I don't think people know about this. I can't remember the creator of it, but there is a Doctor Who mini war game. So if you're a big fan of Doctor Who, you could check it out. I haven't really heard much about it. I think the Warp Forge, I think he covered it a little bit on his channel. Let's see here. Disco Design says, do you read Black Library books? Not anymore. I don't think I would call myself a Black Library book reader so much. I've read a lot of them, but I don't really read, like, the new releases or anything. I haven't read a Black Library book in, like, 10 years, but then, admittedly, I haven't really read, like, a book in ages. I think I read like, the Yellow King, the King in Yellow stories, but apart from that, like, I haven't read a new book in absolutely forever. Amit Akara says, so which Horus Heresy Legion are you starting? Well, of course, I'm starting them all. Honestly, I meant what I said when I did my video on Horus Heresy and why it is going to be dead on arrival. I meant what I said. I sort of looked up the Primarchs. I actually did that on stream. I ranked them all on stream. I looked up the Primarchs and I was like, okay, what Legion am I going to collect? I was going to base it on the sort of personality of the Primarch, and I saw the prices of them, and it was just like, yeah, never mind. I honestly, I don't think I have time for Horus Heresy. I've got so many games on. And I'm kind of getting a little bit into Star Wars Legion again, because recently Asmodee UK did a big deal for May the 4th, where you could buy you got a core set, and you got a bunch of expansions all for like a really cheap price, and I bought into that because I am a fool, and I got a bunch of droid stuff that I need to put together, so I don't know, I'm like not super excited for Horus Heresy anymore. It kind of passed me by, honestly. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be collecting any of them. I think 40k is enough for me as a sort of GW game. I'm going to watch Horus Heresy. I might end up playing a few games at some stage, but I don't know if I'm going to get like into Horus Heresy. At this stage, I've got Age of Sigmar, I've got 40k, I have a kill team. I've got necromunda gangs out the wazoo, and yeah, I think it's a break. I think a bit of a break from Games Workshop stuff, maybe, and I spread my wings a little bit more. Try out a lot more games because there's a ton of games I need to get through. I need to get through Oathmark. I need to get through Lunar. I need to get through Don't Look Back. I need to get through Star Wars Legion. I need to get through Silver Bayonet. I want to play Mad Dogs with Guns. I've got all my one-page rules that I'm doing as well. Like, there's just so many games, and like, Horus Heresy is a very niche game in my opinion. And honestly, like, I'm not too sure about the rule. Like, we'll see what the I haven't checked out the rules. I've heard good things about it though, but I haven't checked out the rules, and I think I'll probably just like maybe proxy some armies, because you can do that. You can proxy stuff and just pretend. I know that people don't like to do this, but I might do that and just try out the rules a little bit. But I don't think I'm gonna review it for the channel or anything like that. Oh, bolt action. I've got to get loads of bolt action. I was recently checking out Island Assault, the starter box for bolt action. I think I'm probably going to review that for the channel. But I'm going to talk about that in the next video. On the next video, I'll be talking about it. You'll see. And you'll see the context. You'll see the context of it pretty gnarly. Let's see here. Danbrook says, side note, West Ham won 4-0 today. I almost care. I don't follow football, so I have no idea. I think there was a brief period of time in my life where I tried to support Crystal Palace because they had a really cool sounding name. Like, they were like in a Crystal Palace. It sounded like a very fantastical name. But then it turns out they didn't win very many games, and so I kind of lost interest. Road Squad says, I'm way more interested in the non-Marine faction than Horus Heresy, personally. Why though? Like, the Eldar haven't had any great strides as far as I'm aware. Like, you're basically just playing an Eldar army. What other Xenos are there that are super relevant? I guess there's like the Mechanicus. I don't know, I just don't really get it. Like, I don't get why you would be like super excited for a Xenos army for Horus Heresy. Like, Horus Heresy is all about it's all about the sort of the Civil War stuff. Uneated Foot 3531 joins as an advocate. Thank you so much for joining the channel. Welcome to the squad, and you get all sorts of strange, silly discourse faces now in chat. So feel free to spam them. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for joining, and welcome. Ron Costin says, I don't mind football much, but I have no idea who it is, who I think I might recognize. Manchester United. As a kid, I supported Manchester United just to annoy my dad, who supported Arsenal. The Spaztech says, now that you're a super rich YouTube star, you can get all your armies commission painted. Yeah. I don't know about super rich YouTube star. I think you might have some misconceptions about the level of success. I would sort of love to get a lot of armies commission painted. I feel like I would get a lot more games in if I could. Like, if someone were to paint minis for me, that would be lovely. I would really like that, because I have so many minis to be painted. On the other hand, though, I enjoy painting minis. Well, that's a lie. I don't enjoy painting minis, but I enjoy customizing minis. I enjoy actually doing the customization and making the little micro decisions that are made through the process of painting. So I think I would kind of miss that. But I feel like I could probably get half of the things on my workload and get them commission painted. That would be amazing. That would be incredible. But I don't know. Maybe one day. But certainly not now. I cannot afford someone to paint a single miniature. Never mind painting an army. So yeah, maybe one day I will be on the rich YouTube lifestyle. Unfortunately, that is not today. Let's see here. George Atkinson says, I was on Bolt Action mail order 3 years ago. They did plastic sprues for a couple of quid each. Now they have a mountain of stuff. Yeah, Bolt Action is huge. And honestly, if you want to play a Warhammer 40k game that is innovative, if you want to play like Warhammer 40k, the system, but innovated on by Rick Priestley, the creator of Warhammer, Bolt Action is the game. So Rick Priestley left Games Workshop in like 2009, I want to say, and went on to join or found Warlord. I still have not had a correct answer for this. But Rick Priestley went on into Warlord Games and created Bolt Action, which is basically the game that he wanted Warhammer 40k to be, but with the historical trappings of World War II, you know, because it wasn't Warhammer anymore. And so there's a lot of really interesting, innovative things that go on in Bolt Action. The activation system is completely randomized. You get a bag, like a dice bag, and you put little dice inside the bag. And, you know, I've got a certain color and you've got a certain color, and you pluck from the bag to see who goes next. They have actually resolved the problem of initiative in other systems, you know. Star Wars Legion is another one that does a really interesting initiative system. There's all these sorts of innovations in the mini wargaming hobby that have not really been incorporated by Games Workshop stuff. And I think that some people would be really surprised to see that there are solutions to a lot of problems that Games Workshop products have. First turn alpha strikes are not a big deal in the vast majority of games. This is a very, very, very specific Warhammer problem. William Inc. says, the toddler goes in a box like all the rest of the little people. I don't know. Okay, well, I don't know what's going on there. Unaided Foot says, I told you I'd join if you added a button on YouTube. Well, there we go. Thank you very much. Matt, and it's an ecosystem. George says, I'm finishing off a commission of Star Wars Legion and Napoleonic British. Very cool. Very nice. Geez. There's an army that I would commission out if I could. My Star Wars Empire army. I have like a bunch of Empire soldiers not painted because after the 20th Stormtrooper, I was like, I can't paint white anymore. I just couldn't do it. It was like too much for me. White is just too much. Spot says, do you have a P.O. box or whatever they have in the land? Unfortunately, I do not. P.O. boxes are actually really expensive and I can't afford one. So that's kind of rough. Like, basically, I mean, between all my sort of normal bills, I'm also paying for an editor. So a lot of the videos, I'm paying for an editor so that I can actually spend some time hobbying, which is nice. But what that means is that for things like P.O. boxes and stuff like that, I can't really afford that. I'm also saving up to get another camera because I would like to be able to actually show miniatures at a distance, you know, closer than be like, hey, you know, and you're like standing across the room going, what is it? What is it? You know, so, I'd like to get another camera that's like aimed down onto the table so that I can actually show what I was doing. Maybe paint, maybe not on stream. I don't know if I'm going to ever paint on stream. I feel like people might get bored watching me just slap a bunch of paint on a thing. Rod Squad says Rick Priestley, more like Rick Godley, which is a pretty good one. I've never heard that before. Gabriel Marquez says Warhammer with bolt action rules would have been brilliant. Yeah, right. But Games Workshop, so the executives were too afraid that people would leave because it would be change. Which kind of gives you the mindset of Warhammer 40k. It's why, you know, I mean, Horus Heresy, presumably, apparently is a much better system as well. So they let that happen. It's why I was really interested in Kill Team, because Kill Team was actually kind of innovative. Games Workshop have a house style in terms of their sort of design. A lot of push your luck elements, a lot of D6s with multiple rolls to resolve things. You know, you've got a roll to hit, to wound, and then an armor save. It's very, very classic GW. So it was kind of interesting to Kill Team take it another direction with like simultaneous melee and stuff like that. Yeah. Bolt action melee, not very good. But I think that bolt action will be the next review on the channel. I reviewed one-page rules. The problem is that many war games take forever to review. Torquemidas with the €10 donation. Thank you very much for the nude camera fund. Thank you. I really appreciate that, actually. Because cameras are like super expensive. What's up with that? Yeah, so thank you very much for that. That's awesome. That helps me get closer to my goal of having the capacity to show minis on stream. Or even books. I think a really fun thing to do on stream would be to like unbox other miniature games. Because it would give me an excuse to talk about them. Maybe look at starter sets and stuff like that and whether or not they're worth your while. There's a lot of unboxings on YouTube, but I think if we were to talk about like the viability of a starter set and things like that could be kind of interesting, because it would give me like an excuse to, like, if I wanted to talk, for example, about Star Wars Legion, wouldn't it be nice if I could actually just have the starter box and talk about what they do well and what they don't do well when compared to Warhammer 40k? Wouldn't that be easier than a full video of me going laboriously over all the mechanics of Star Wars Legion? I think it might be. So yeah, I think bolt action though is the next one to be reviewed. One of the things that might surprise you as well, I don't know, I'm sure that anyone who has a wide variety of miniature war games probably knows this already, but when you have a wide variety of miniature war games, the thing holding you back isn't necessarily minis, because oftentimes minis are quite cheap from a lot of other creators. Oftentimes the thing that holds me back, at least, is terrain. Is trying to find terrain that fits and getting it done so that there's actually a table. It's why I actually started playing a lot more down at my local club, because I just didn't have the terrain for the variety of mini games that I wanted to play. You know, I actually created some homebrew for my Empire army in Star Wars Legion as if they lived in a prison planet, so that I could then play with my Gotham City terrain that I use for Batman. I'd be like, this is also Star Wars. So that I could just use the same terrain because, like, I mean, I wasn't going to go buy specific Star Wars terrain. Like, that's crazy. Matt says, bloody hell, I didn't realize how expensive a P.O. box is. £300 for a year. Yikes. Yeah, that's like... It's like 2 ash waste boxes. It's crazy. Yeah, it's really expensive. It's very expensive. I just can't afford it. I would love to do it because I've been asked before, like, whether or not I have a P.O. box. And obviously, like, Snipe and Whip and stuff, they do, like, a P.O. box video. And I feel like that would be really nice, fun, easy content to do. It's all about the easy content. Easy win. If I could go unboxing some mailbox stuff. But... I just can't afford a PO box. Unaided Foot with the 10 Canadian dollar donation. New camera fund hype train. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, new camera hype fund. I'd love to get a new camera. But it is they are expensive. They're expensive bad boys. So donations certainly help. And I super appreciate them. Let's see here. James Reed says 50mm miniatures might be a fix for terrain. 50mm. I am stuck in the 28mm scale. I just am. Like, most of the stuff I have is for 28mm, and I understand the value and the utility from these sort of smaller scale models, but I can't help myself. I really like this size of minis. This is like the size of minis that I kind of grew up with, you know? This is the size that I got into. And 50mm just doesn't do it for me as much. It just doesn't. I don't know why. And I think that this is probably like a bugbear that I should probably get over because I suspect that, you know, the scale. I think I would really enjoy the scale that 50mm and like 6mm and stuff like that brings, where you can play massive armies against one another. But I kind of like 28mm. And it's kind of funny, actually. Warhammer, I think, would probably have suited 15 or 6mm more because the setting of that game is so big, so massive. But, you know, it's the modeling too. It's the painting aspects as well. I don't think painting 6mm or 50mm is as fun because it's just the, you know, it's less of a statue to paint. Waffles Enjoyer says, speaking of Batman, are you getting the new starter? Yeah, I am probably. Yeah. So, there is a new starter set for the Batman minis game, and I just want to show it off a little bit. Because night models never get talked about. They never get talked about, except for me. I talk about them all the time. I feel like because I really dig the Batman minis game. Okay, here we go. So yeah, Batman minis game has a new starter set. It's based on the oh no, I clicked the wrong thing. It's based on the Batman movie, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a pity they don't have the models painted for some reason, which is kind of a pity. But you get this. Can we zoom in? Can this be shown off at all? Yeah, there it is. You get this model if you pre-order it. And I don't like pre-orders. Just as a general rule. I don't like the idea of pre-ordering. It makes more sense for a physical product like this than for a digital product, but I don't like the pressure to pre-order. But I get it. I understand it. And I don't like pre-order exclusives, but I do sort of want this because it's a little Robert Pattinson with you know, he's been painted with eye makeup, and I would also do him with some mascara, and I really want this. I'm sorry. But yeah, so the new starter looks really interesting. I have all like the cards and stuff that you get in the box and the tokens, but I'm probably gonna buy it because I really want the organized crime led by Falcone, and I want the Batman model and stuff in it, so it looks pretty cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it, honestly. Night models seem like they're trying to get their act together, which is something I definitely want to encourage. Night models traditionally have had a really hard time distributing models to retailers and things like that, but it looks like they have brought someone new on and who is really trying to get the ball rolling with other retailers, getting a little bit of dependability, because night models have struggled for the longest time in the business arena. They're like a miniature company that is the opposite of Games Workshop. They are all about making gorgeous designs and really interesting and fun games, but are rubbish at the business side of things, whereas Games Workshop obviously is the opposite. Let's see here then, but yeah, let's see. Amit Akara says, Mantic Games Terrain Crate is great. Also, Battle Systems Terrain. Terrain Crate is really interesting. I do want to check that out. I'm not sure, like, because it's card stock, right? So that is pretty interesting. Ruskawad asks, is MDF Terrain better, equivalent, or worse than plastic? It is better. It is better. Everyone's going to disagree with me on that, but the reason why it's better is because it's more affordable. If you ever notice that Games Workshop boxes are like super expensive because they contain plastic terrain. The plastic is cheap, but it's just that Games Workshop themselves put a premium on plastic terrain. I wouldn't get caught in the hype of plastic terrain. Once you start to get a lot of MDF terrain, you start to realize that like you'd much rather just have more MDF because it's kind of disposable in a sense. But you also, it's just more affordable. It's just so much more affordable. And for someone, if you want a lot of terrain, like, you'll quickly find that plastic terrain is far too expensive to keep up with. Just far too expensive. Plus, it paints well. And really, I mean, what is terrain doing? Do you want terrain to be the most important thing on the board? No, not for me. I want the minis to be the most important thing on the board. Lazy Mini Penny says, oh yeah, cameras are expensive, especially for the good ones. Yeah, they are, right? William says, but maybe you end up with more than 2 Iceland box kits worth of stuff to review. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. That would be good. Kind of a gamble, though. It's kind of a gamble. Let's see. Waffles and Jerry says, 28mm requires a microscope to paint. Really? You think so? I don't know about that. I just slap on some contrast, and it usually does me. Usually does me fine. Let's see here. Axe Annex says, get molding for advantage to send you some 15mm stuff. Paint it up, make a video on your thoughts. Content gold. Maybe. I don't know. I think most people aren't interested in 15mm, honestly. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. I just don't think... I think that most people are sort of enamored with 28mm. It feels like such a nice size. I think the thing that 50mm does, it's better for wargaming probably at certain scales. But I think in terms of miniature war games, I don't know. I'd have to work with it. I guess. I couldn't really make the decision. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll speak with the Restless Kaiser. Commissar Roach says, 15mm lets you do a lot of great stuff. Yeah, it does. I mean, I've often thought that Warhammer would have fit that sort of scale a lot more. Dingo Dundee says, remember the GW plates to put your squads on? I do. Actually, I do. Jorzakin says, 50mm Sherman tanks are fun to paint. I hate painting tanks, just no matter what they are. Scott Wood says, 32mm is preferred for painting. Well, 32mm and 28 is pretty interchangeable, right? Like 32mm and 28mm is interchangeable in my opinion. Like they do that a lot. I don't know what that is. Matt says, promise not stalking you, but yeah, battle systems. I really want to give core space a proper go. Stormy Wolf says, I have 6mm, 7.5mm, 10mm, 25, 28, 32, and 35mm games and minis. Not for almost all the stuff fitting terrain. However, I'm almost 30 years in the hobby. Yeah, I've got a lot of minis, but they're mostly like 28 and 32mm. Yeah, they mostly are. Let's see here. Diorda says, 3D print is so perfect to make terrains. This and making yourself a bunch of stuff is just so easy. Remember 20 years ago, wasn't the same. Yeah, it wasn't. Terrain was like, you had to craft a lot of terrain. I never played with much terrain outside of like the Games Workshop store like 20 years ago. When I played at home, like it was books and sort of, but that was also kind of maybe where I was in the hobby. Like I was getting into it at that stage. Whereas I've sort of evolved alongside it. I've got a lot of MDF stuff now, and I kind of was put off MDF for the longest time. So I was worried it would smell like burning materials, and it kind of does, but it goes away very quickly. Let's see here. Okay. Waffles Enjoyer, not safe for work hand signals. Yeah, YouTube can't demonetize me for that. They don't have the technology yet. They don't know what they can't pick that up. the machine, the algorithm doesn't know what's going on. Nevitskeep says, I love painting 28mm. 50mm is definitely better for wargaming, just because it can also occupy smaller space for limited space gamers. Yeah, that is true. So I get, like, that is a point. That's a good point, that it's kind of more accessible. It's more accessible for gamers. Does anyone remember X-Wing? So it's kind of tangential to the whole like 50mm or not, but X-Wing was at a certain scale where you could kind of move it around a coffee table, right? You know, the sort of flying ships. It was a Star Wars miniatures game, but it was like dogfighting, and it performed really well. It did really well until the game kind of died a little bit of a death during a new edition, and then it started to build up a bit more now, I think. But that game was doing really well for the longest time. I think part of it was the accessibility, because you could play it on a coffee table and the models all came pre-painted, which is sort of unheard of for a miniature war game. Efren says the venerable T-box buildings. Yeah, definitely. We didn't need no ash waste buildings. Although I will say that I mentioned this earlier. I heard that the ash waste buildings are like pretty innovative, which was a really big surprise to me. Like I checked it out. It seemed like pretty interesting, and that almost makes the set not worth it. But like, it makes it's just good to know that the terrain is good. You know, if like I ever see it being sold at a reasonable price, I'll know that that's the case. Symbiote Mullet says, maybe miniatures aren't the future. Maybe we should be playing with Warhammer with shop mannequins. Yes! I could go for this. Like, you dress them up and stuff and send them to battle with one another. Robot Wars. Robot Wars! Dan Brooks says, I seriously recommend Blood Bowl. I know I am a bit of a broken record, but it combines comic, bombastic, and hilarity in a self-contained game. Plus, no need for terrain. Yeah, that is actually a good... That's a portion of Blood Bowl I never thought about. I never thought about Blood Bowl in that context. But yeah, you don't need terrain for it. Obviously, you need, like, the sideboards. You got, like, the dugout for injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't need terrain. You get the stadium stuff, and then you're good to go, which is kind of interesting. A lot of that's 2D, right? Because it's just a pitch. It's just a pitch. So that is kind of interesting, yeah. Nevis Cube says, the LARPing Warhammer 40k. There are a lot of people who do not need another excuse to LARP 40k. Yeah. Kay says, does anyone remember that Punch-Out plastic pirate ship game that came in booster packs like magic cards? I do not. Ronald's asking about the Coke can. Yeah, it's like a funky size. Like, this is the size of Coke that they're doing these days, it seems. So... I dig it. It's like a really weird can. Is this like on the TV where you're not allowed to show the label? You gotta like keep it like that. Yeah, it's like a really weirdly shaped can. It's kind of neat. Let's see. Waffers and Jar says action figure skirmish game when. But I have to imagine that something like that already exists. But I don't know. Well, look, guys, it's been a really fun time, and I've really enjoyed talking about Warhammer Fest. A lot of my opinions on Warhammer Fest have not been solidified because I haven't watched the stream, so I'm working off of what I've sort of have heard and like the brief snippets I've read on the Warhammer community. Because to be honest, I've been hobbying and it's been kind of fun, so I haven't really been keeping up with Warhammer Fest. And to answer the question, because I do not clickbait my titles, thank you very much. I always seek to answer the questions that I put in the titles, or I have the titles summarize the content of the video. But are Games Workshop getting better? I think the answer is, I think that they're sort of coming up with solutions to problems that they have made in ways that benefit them very immensely. I don't know if the weapon packs are a good idea. I think that that's kind of dangerous. I feel like instead the solution should have just been what it always used to be, and is currently for a lot of other midi-war games, which is to sell the special weapons inside the box of the models that can use the special weapons. That's the solution, in my opinion. Other companies do it, and I feel like if you're paying a lot of money for a premium brand like Games Workshop, that they should probably act a little bit premium and contain everything in the box. In terms of the compendiums, glad to see that. In terms of the points rules being released for free, glad to see that. But again, this should have been they should have always been free. The season model shouldn't exist. Secondly, the compendiums should have always been that way. They don't even need to be books. I mean, they could just release them for free, maybe. That would be nice. They could just be online and sell the books for people who really want to have the books. That's good. No doubt, though, that it's going to be built upon by codices. What else? What else have they done that people are really liking? What else can I yuck? Yes, the new box set is it is cheap for what we were expecting it to be, but it is not cheap. It is more than likely going to be around $300. I hope it's closer to $200. It's probably going to be closer to $300. Which is still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money for an entrance box. I suspect that Horse Heresy is being targeted directly at people who are already big spenders in Warhammer 40k. So Games Workshop are sort of... I'm kind of concerned that Games Workshop feel like the Primaris stuff, they've sold Primaris to everybody who's going to buy them. You know, like, I mean, if you imagine the GW customer, it's a guy who, 15 years ago got into Warhammer, fell in love with Space Marines, started in with Space Marines, has bought Space Marines, had a massive army of Space Marines, maybe started a second chapter. Then Primaris came out. had to rebuy the entirety of a new Space Marine army, bought all of that. He's finally done now. He's finally done with his Primaris army. He's got them all. What's this on the horizon? What's this? Space Marine player. You've bought all the lieutenants you can. What is this? It's an entire game system around playing with more Space Marines. And so now they're being monetized again to buy more Space Marines. Yeah, so, you know, it's kind of dangerous. I'm not too sure. So, Horse Heresy is just kind of weird to me, because it's kind of compete with 40k a little bit. So, yeah. Recently, I don't know if this is still the case, but recently, Games Workshop's retailer website was open to the public. So you could only go on the website as a retailer. And for a while there, it was open to the public. I don't know if that's still the case, but I got onto the website and I downloaded everything because I was like, this isn't going to last forever. So I downloaded all their pricing stuff. I downloaded all their internal marketing materials. And what I discovered is that Necromunda is very much designed for people who are already big into Warhammer. At some stage, I'm probably going to go through this. Maybe I'll go through it next week on stream. Or maybe not next week, but the week after. I like to stream every other week. Maybe I'll stream this in 2 weeks. I'll go through some of the materials that they had. But they talked about Necromunda being a very, you know, complicated game for complicated gamers, i.e. people who are willing to put up with more Games Workshop BS. And I always thought, you know, what's the onboarding for Warhammer? Like, Necromunda would make a pretty good onboarding, but for Games Workshop, they don't view it that way. They've got the Start Painting set with the 3 little Space Marines. They've got the Start Painting set with the Necrons, and they have the Imperium magazine, and there you go. There's all the onboarding you need. Everything else is like monetize, monetize, monetize. Aggressively monetize. 40k, aggressively monetize. Everything. You know, because they've already got, like, onboarding by their, like, tiny little products. In the grim darkness of the far future, there are only Space Marines, says Fam Cactus. Yes, indeed, unfortunately. That is the case. Ooh, online strips without clothing. Woohoo! Sweaty. We got naked online strips without clothing. My god, it's just spamming emojis. That's incredible. Yeah, but Slanesh bot in chat. Yes, indeed, Stuart. Can you strip without clothing? Yeah, you can. You can deglove somebody, for example. It's not pleasant, but it can be done. Yeah. So I guess that's the rundown. Our Games Workshop getting better. Certainly, it seems like they have responded somewhat to criticism, which is good. It's better than nothing. I hope that they continue that. But as always with Games Workshop, sometimes it feels like it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It really does feel like that sometimes. But I am glad that they're not filling up this Horse Heresy box with tons of terrain. I just feel like the box itself is too big for a starter set. I think it's going to impulse. There's not going to be a lot of impulse. Well, I've been wrong before. Maybe there are a lot of people who will impulse buy Horse Heresy boxes. And, geez, in this economy, I don't know. Discourse, get yourself a home. What will the neighbors say? Says Dan Brooks. Yeah, I don't know, actually. There's a little palm tree in a house that I'm looking at the minute, so that would be nice. I'd love to have a palm tree. We don't really get them here in Ireland. Symbiote Mall says, do not Google degloving. Do not Google degloving. Don't do it. It's really gross. It's basically where they... okay, so, you know, the skin is... it's removed, I guess. Should be the... Oh god, yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that without, like, just without any warning. Sorry, anybody who did Google that. Inquisitor Vex says, is it not an introduction box? Yeah, it is. It is an introduction box, but I don't know. There's a lot of hype around. So this is something to remember, guys. Like, this is something like to bear in mind. There's a lot of hype around Horse Heresy right now. So you might be getting hyped up. Like, oh my god, look at all these reveals. Look at all these reveals. But think about this in a year. How hyped are you going to be about all this stuff in a year? And where's the game going to be in a year as well? You know, is it going to continue to be supported? Is it going to be supported too much? Sometimes it's best to let these things kind of sit. So the Horse Heresy box, as far as we know, is not a FOMO box. So they will be just, this is just the box. So they're not doing this as a limited run, which is good. And as far as I can tell, they don't have any exclusives inside the box either, which is good. as far as I know. So that's good stuff. So in a sense, yes, Games Workshop are getting better. I just suspect that the next Warhammer 40k book is gonna have exclusives in it. So, time will tell whether or not this is a long-term trend. I suspect that it is not. Games Workshop have been good in the past, but right now it's kind of a bit like, ooh. Only the tank interests me at the most, says Peter. Yeah, I don't know. Dingo Dundee says palm tree in Ireland. Yeah, I know, right? That's why I want it. Orc Doc says, where's it going to be in a year? Cries in Curse City. Well, yeah. Curse City was a bit rough. And the worst part about Curse City is that apparently it wasn't even a very good game. That's kind of like the worst part for me. The Curse City minis, I would like the Curse City minis to be released separately, because I kind of like them as well. I think they could be pretty cool for, like, they've got the very Bloodborne-esque in terms of their aesthetic. But yeah, I don't really want to buy the game so much, because I don't think I would play it. Waffles Enjoyer says, I'm only vaguely interested in the 2 leader models in the Horse Heresy book because they look neat. The rest is meh. The leaders do look pretty neat, but now that you've mentioned it, are they exclusive to this box? Are they exclusive to the Horse Heresy box, those 2 leader models? I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate it when models are exclusive to boxes. Unless the box is, like, a really good deal. You know? If the model's, like, if I kind of forgive it a little bit for something like Star Wars Legion, where that's how you get the rule book. I think maybe this is something that I'll talk about if I ever review Star Wars Legion. But you get, like, the bespoke. Star Wars Legion uses its own, like, proprietary dice. It uses its own proprietary tools and stuff like that. And I'm on record of not liking that. And it's true, I don't like that. I feel like it's trying to resolve a problem that doesn't exist. I think people feel like people are, like, casual hobbyists are intimidated by measuring tapes and stuff like that. I don't think they really are, necessarily. It's just Fantasy Flight Games originally created Star Wars Legion, and I think that their board game pedigree sort of shone through a little. But you gotta buy, like, a starter box, like a starter box, and in that you get 2 different armies, and obviously, like, that is designed to sort of get new people to invest overly in the game system, which I'm not a fan of, but it is definitely something you can split with someone else. But that's gotta hurt the viability of mini games, right? Like, almost every single starter set is like, here's 2 armies, split the box. Like, you gotta have a friend to buy in, really? Like, who has friends? Come on. It's why I like Warlord. Warlord do, like, armies where they just sell, like, you an army. And that's kind of it. Like, this is it. This is all you need. You just buy, like, the British army. And you've got it. You know, and that's it. You buy that and you're sorted. You can just play bolt action now. Wow, I'm kind of imagining a game now. Like, imagine this for a mini war game, right? It's that. There's just army boxes sold, right? Everything's sold separately. But there's also army boxes sold as well, which are pretty good discounts because they're guaranteeing the sales of, like, a lot more sprues than they would otherwise. So therefore it can be more affordable. And then this game, you can buy that army box, you can buy a second one if you want, and you can play against, like, the AI, or, like, a sort of a cooperative game using just this one box for your army. How cool would that be? What a fun game that could be. Wow. Incredible. The dream. Ahmed says, have you followed Wasteland Warfare? Yes, I have. I have done the Fallout Wasteland Warfare. It's a really fun game. It's a skirmish game. But again, that suffers from the same sort of issues the Star Wars Legion suffers from, which is a lot of bespoke proprietary dice, a lot of bespoke mechanics. And it's gone really deep. Modifius produced that game, and they've gone really hard on co-op and AI. Like, co-op gameplay, solo gameplay. They have, like, a kind of campaign system. Needs a little bit more work, but it's like a settlement mode. You can have a settlement and stuff like that. You customize your settlement. And that's fun. That's really fun. I really enjoy that. I feel like the dice system and stuff is kind of intimidating, but I will give it this much. The dice used in it are very, very, I can't get them because it's in storage at the minute, but the dice are very specific to that system. Like, you couldn't really quite do that game with D6. So I like that. Star Wars Legion, you could use D6. You don't need those proprietary dice. Fallout Wasteland Warfare, you do need those special dice. So that's something in its favor. It's a fun game. I've played that co-op. I haven't actually played a competitive game of Fallout Wasteland Warfare. All of my experiences have been co-op, and I think that's awesome. I think more war games need this, and more war games are coming out with this. William Ing says, co-op versus a big bad is an easier way to talk a friend into rolling some dice. 100%. Yes, it so is. Plus, it's fun. It's actually fun. It's not stressful. You know, you go down to the club and you're like, oh god, I gotta like play against someone, and you play against these tryhards, and people are like different competitive levels than you are, and there's a lot of like social problems that go in to playing competitive games. No, I wanted to end the stream soon. They got me on this tangent of co-op versus competitive, and it's something I really firmly believe that cooperative play is the future of this hobby. I say it all the time. All the time. I say it all the time that the cooperative gameplay is the future of this hobby. And why? Because you can go down to a club. You can get a pickup group. You can ask someone else to play with you. And you can play against the AI. And that's such a less intimidating experience. You can actually speak with someone else and play with them. So when you're playing against that grognard or that person who like is always super tryharding, at least they're tryharding. It doesn't matter if they're tryharding against the AI. You know, it doesn't matter. It's like when someone, or something's overpowered. It doesn't matter because it's cooperative. You're both playing together. It only hurts the AI. And that's fine. Whenever you're playing a game and it's a competitive game and something's really overpowered, well, it feels really bad to have, you know, that deployed against you. But at least if your ally is using an overpowered unit, you kind of get the side hustle benefit of it. And I feel like you're more likely to kind of say something like, maybe we just interpreted the rules a little bit differently so that it's not so overpowered, right? It's gonna be less contentious to do that, I think, than in a cooperative game where I'm on the receiving end of that overpowered unit. Joshua Pina says, Joshua Pina has joined us as an advocate. Welcome, Joshua. Thank you very much for joining. You now get to use all sorts of silly faces of Discourse miniatures. Welcome to the club. Thank you so much for joining. Rod Squad says, why aren't there more modern warfare miniature games? I think it's because it's very sensitive topics a lot of the time. White Dragon miniatures. Yes, they are called White Dragon miniatures. Do some modern miniature stuff, modern military stuff. They have like insurgents and things like that. Let me think. Spectre miniatures as well. They do modern stuff too. So there are modern games out there. It's just they're not really played that much. I don't know why, but they're just not played that much. Giovan Shire says, narrative co-op war games, let's go. Yes, 100%. Because I mean, if you think about it, Dungeons and Dragons is just a cooperative war game. Wizards of the Coast don't like to see it this way, but Dungeons and Dragons performs better as a war game than it does as a role-playing game, in my opinion. Role-playing in Dungeons and Dragons often takes the form of an accent, whereas the war game has a lot of mechanics put into it. There's a lot of mechanics into the Dungeons and Dragons wargame system. Another system, Fantasy Trip, which is a sort of a runoff of GURPS. It's the precursor to the GURPS system. Fantasy Trip is another war game where you're incentivized to pick up rocks and bash people in the head with them. You know, you don't get special powers the way you do in Dungeons and Dragons. It's more about how you move on the battlefield. There's like a hex map. Really fun game. I'd really recommend, actually. The funnest dungeon crawl I've ever had was in Fantasy Trip, where I listened to nothing but metal from the 80s and pretended that I was indeed in the 80s and played with little chips like it was like the olden days, and played Fantasy Trip. It was a lot of fun. Did that for a friend's birthday. But they're all war games, right? And they're all cooperative war games. And I feel like we've kind of forgotten that, because Dungeons and Dragons and the TTRPGs kind of split off into their own direction, and then miniature war games split off in this other direction, kind of occupied by Warhammer. And Warhammer have never actually understood that you could do cooperative Warhammer. They've never been interested in that. They do narrative, but they do it as competitive. And I don't feel like competitive games work very well as narrative games. I feel like whenever you're both set out to defeat one another, it's going to always have an element of competition to it, even if you don't necessarily want that to be the case. Whereas with cooperative, you can definitely play a game against like an AI deck. There's all sorts of solutions these days. Game design in this area has definitely innovated loads. I'm a big fan of it. I should probably do a video on this. I've got a lot to say about this. But yeah. cooperative games. I totally think that they are awesome. And I'm surprised that Fallout Wasteland Warfare is not more popular because the system is good. The system is good. I feel like they made a bit of a misstep. The game itself feels like it was designed for Fallout players rather than miniature war gamers, and I don't know how much of a take. Like I just feel like as a miniature war game, it hasn't penetrated the consciousness of most war gamers or most Fallout gamers. So it's kind of fallen down there, I think. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, so I would recommend it. From the amount that I have played, that is not a review though. Maybe it's something which I will review it. Okay, so we've got Ahmed says Pathfinder 2nd edition better than Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Fair enough. I played Pathfinder 1st edition. I have not played 2nd edition, but I played plenty of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. It's fine. John says, what's the best AI system? So One Page Rules has an AI system. But honestly, I think the most extensive one that I've played has probably been in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. It's probably been the most complicated. Complicated at first. It's got like, I wish I had the cards here. See, this is why I really want like a camera pointing down, so I could have the box here and I could open it and show you all the components and stuff. But the cards are kind of complicated. If you Google up like the AI cards for Fallout Wasteland Warfare, they're kind of complicated at first. Like they look like gibberish, but once you get it, and it's kind of intuitive to read. And there's like different decisions that the AI makes, and once you get the hang of it, you get the hang of it. It's pretty quick going. Let's see here. Symbiote Bone says 100% D&D is too fighty. Yeah, I agree. Like whenever I play war games for fighting. When I want to fight a good crunchy combat system, usually I will just play a miniature war game. If I want to roleplay, I want to play a roleplay game. So I'm not a big fan of D&D because it sort of tries to do both. And I don't think it does either very well. Like, to be honest, I will roleplay during miniature war games. I have played a Batman game as the Riddler. My opponent did not appreciate it when I consistently asked them riddles throughout the game, and they were not happy by the end of the game because I was winning. So I mean, like, I'll kind of do that sort of stuff when I'm playing miniature war games. When I'm playing D&D, you know, but I really enjoy role-playing games that really ask you to role-play a lot. And there's been like a huge renaissance of those style of games. Like those games exist. PLN says, hi Discourse, I come from post-Soviet country. Here Games Workshop is really a luxury, and I really appreciate your fight for better treatment for us as customers. And donated there. Thank you very much there, PLN. Thank you very much. Games Workshop products are grossly expensive for what they are. And I feel like for too long this has just been accepted, and it really sucks because I feel like miniature wargaming can be really accessible, and it kind of is sad that it's not as accessible as it can be, because one of the main marketers for miniature war games is Games Workshop. So thank you so much for the donation. I'm glad that you've enjoyed the content. And certainly I'm going to be here constantly advocating. John says, I've been working on a game for a few weeks and haven't considered co-op, so I'll take a look. Yeah, definitely. Every single game designer I speak to, I go, has it got a co-op mode? Has it got a co-op mode? And yeah, I'm trying to push games. I'm trying to get them to have co-op modes and stuff. I think it's definitely something that's really big. And I think it's vital, actually, for a lot of people to get into the hobby. Let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest. There's a lot of people out there who would love to play war games with their spouse, for example. I think that it's easier to convince people, more casual-minded players, to play a co-op game rather than a competitive game. I don't think a lot of people want to play a competitive game, to be honest. And I think it's the same for most games. I think it's the same for board games. I think it's the same for video games. I think most people just want to play against like a bot or something that they can just defeat and feel kind of good about that. It's just a lot less pressure. Scott Wood says, riddle me this. Why are you so pissed? Oh, for many, many reasons. Come on. Yeah, I wish things could get better. Ronald Carson says, White Wolf, some of their RPGs may be more to your liking, but stay away from Werewolf and Forsaken if you prefer combat light. I love World of Darkness stuff. Hunter the Reckoning, Hunter the Vigil is my favorite, like my favorite line of World of Darkness, because I love playing as a human trying to kill monsters. It's just a lot of fun. Okay, guys, I think that's me for today. My voice is starting to give out. It has been a really long week, and I really want to paint the rest of my little droids. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got like 10 more of these guys to paint. So I gotta get to that. I'm gonna chill out, I think. But thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun talking about Games Workshop stuff. Warhammer Fest was really interesting for reasons other than just simply seeing more Games Workshop products. It was definitely very interesting. And I look forward to seeing what they come out with next. But remember, the hype does go away eventually. The hype isn't here forever, so you don't get caught up in it too much. Thanks, everybody. I had a lot of fun, as always. And I will be probably streaming, not next week, but the week after that. Hopefully not homeless. And I will see you all. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.